Sit now. Let's see. All right, they can hear you now.
Guys, let me know if you can hear us.
Okay. All right. There it is.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Paranormal Round Table. I'm not feeling too good, guys. You ever have one of those weeks where things just don't go the way you want them to go? And no matter how hard you try, it just doesn't go the way you want it to go. And you could do anything, and it's not going to go the way you want it to go. That's kind of where I'm at. Not feeling good. Yes, I've had Linda Godfrey on the show. We did a podcast, 2 or 3 hour episodes. And she's been ill for quite some time. Or she would have been on again. Waiting for the live to chat to fill up so we can start doing what we got to do. Thank you for that donation, Jonathan. Definitely appreciate it. I honestly think since, I don't know, maybe it's COVID or something, but I had like this, I have a photographic memory. Like, I honestly do. I really do. Everybody around me that knows me in my personal life can tell you that. It's true. It's not bullcrap. When I still trap on something, like, I got it. It's there. And here lately, I've just been thrown off. I don't know if anybody else has been feeling this, but I honestly, I really believe this, that it has something to do with this CERN bullshit. I'm not joking. I was talking to Jessica Jones last night. She's the cryptid huntress, what they call her, the remote viewer, and just talking about just feeling weird, not feeling on top of your game, feeling out of place. I'm noticing a ton of Mandela effects. Just with a lot of things. Thank you for that donation, Rogue. Like, there's a show out right now on Netflix about Jeffrey Dahmer. Okay, the serial killer. Everybody knows who the Jeffrey Dahmer is. You've heard his name mentioned a million times. We're going to talk about him a little bit tonight. But so many things have changed with that, but with just a lot of things. You don't know which way is up. And I'm kind of at that point right now. I'm really fed up with just something is a certain way, and you look and it's not. And you're scratching your head and you're going like, what is going on here? I mean, and then I still feel like I'm suffering the effects of what they call long COVID, because my memory, I'll be just talking and then my train of thought is gone. I mean, like, bad. Anyways, Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com, Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. Those are the coordinates. Folks, regardless of what happens between now and Halloween, we're going to have a show, and it's going to be the day after Halloween, because Halloween is on a Monday. And so our show is on a Tuesday. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the show on a Tuesday. And I'm going to have Jessica Jones and Celine myself, Barton Nunley, hopefully Nelly, we're all going to be, and then 2 or 3 of us will be in the studio, and we're going to have like a big Zoom thing, and we're going to allow you, the listeners, it's going to be something completely new we've never done. We're going to branch out into some different things. We're going to branch out into some different things that we haven't done before. And we're going to, I can't remember what I was going to say. I'm just, I'm having anxiety right now on camera. Okay, so we're going to be doing some different things we've never done before. And one of these things is going to be, we're going to allow you, the listeners, to call in, or we're going to put you in a queue, and then we're going to allow you to tell your stories. And it's going to go on for 2 or 3 hours. That's how we're going to do it.
Might pick up the
I felt great a few hours ago, and now I feel like I'm being bombarded with radiation. I don't know what's going on. And I'm not saying that's what's happening. People are like, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist, whatever,
I mean, we literally just left the mall, and you were looking great.
That's why I walked out early. I started not feeling great. Where did all this come from? First of all, I mean, I'm going to get into some stories, and I'm going to have a guest come on. Don't worry, we're going to get to the stories. That's all I'm here for, I guess. But, let me ask you guys a question. Where does this come from? 20 years ago, it was like depression. Well, yeah, there was depression, but it's not like it is now. I'm not depressed. But then there's all this anxiety, which I have now, which I never had before until a few years ago. And now I have it. And everybody's got insomnia. I don't have insomnia, usually. But I don't understand it. I mean, it's like, I understand our ancestors, they did not have this problem. They did not have anxiety and depression and insomnia. You know why? Because they had to go out and they had to go kill a woolly mammoth, and it was hard work. And then they carved it up, and then they went home, went to sleep because they were exhausted, and it was dark. So you huddled together in a cave or something and hope that saber-toothed tigers and whatever, lions and tigers and bears didn't eat you.
Well, I heard
So that was what they did. Okay, they didn't have time to have insomnia. Nobody had insomnia. They're like, Olak, you have insomnia? No, I sleep. I tired. We kill mammoth all day. Okay, yes, you're right. Let's sleep. Got to get up, crack of dawn, go look for berries. I mean, that's kind of what was going on. So these people, everybody's like, oh, you have depression, you have anxiety, you have whatever, the crap. Let's take Prozac or whatever the bull crap you need to take. Why? I don't have insomnia. I work so hard, so much all the time. When my head hits the pillow, I'm out, bro. Your mind is racing 1,000 miles a minute. Sometimes that'll happen. But typically, I'm straight to sleep. I have time. I don't have time for this. I got to get up and start all over and do it all over again. And this past week, I had an unscrupulous individual that works for one of my clients who decided that he wants to take things that weren't his and lie and try to cost everybody their jobs. And so I had to save us by the grace of my Father God and His Son and Savior, His Son and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I was able to help get this done. And it was just, I had to go and tell the truth about what this guy was doing. It's hard. It's not an easy job. And then people want to talk about, their issues and whatever your issues are or whatever. Yeah, okay, we all have issues. You think you came back from picking berries or whatever it is that the ancient people did, and then they went and talked to their psychotherapist? Oh, Tech, you look tired. Bag under eyes. Talk to Lothar. Him good therapist. Okay, Tech, I think I go talk to him. He good. Lothar, me having problem. Out picking berries. Feel bad. Lot of weird feeling. Yes, you are suffering from anxiety. That is what you have. I'm sorry, but it's just very bad. Must take Prozac and Alprazolam for to help you. Okay. Me take spear, take pills, go kill mammoth. That didn't happen. It did not happen. Lothar was your psychotherapist. He helped you after a long day of picking berries. You go back to your little mushroom house, and you hope that Gargamel doesn't come and squish you all and eat you. And Azrael, his cat, chasing you around. Lothar's like, wonder problem is only one female in village. Everyone in love with one female in village, or each other. Nobody ever thought that was weird. There was Smurfette. That was it. That was the only one, the only female. What was her job? It was pretty obvious what her job was. There was like no other females on there. And then Papa Smurf always says, that we should all have her as our girlfriend. I think Smurfette was probably the busiest person in the village, I guess, whatever.
Well, I don't remember the lore, obviously, but isn't Smurfette wasn't she like Gargamel's creation?
I think so. I think she was, yeah.
I was going to say, though, this is a good comment thank you, Voltron, for the $50. He says, take your time, boss man. You got this. No pressure. Keep pushing. Keep it moving.
Yeah, I was sitting there and I was just having anxiety, like really bad, and I just felt it, and then my blood pressure was high, and I got it down. I've been working out quite a bit though too, so that helps. It helps get the anxiety off of me, get me where I need to be. Going through a lot right now, folks. I could really use a lot of prayer and a lot of help. I'm just trying to navigate the waters.
Well, I heard an interesting theory for where anxiety might come from. It's the that danger sense that we used to get when predators would be around was so intense that now that we lost it, it's become like, I think the way this comedian put it was that it's our body fighting itself instead of trying to fight something else outside of it.
I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. Anyways, I got a few stories for you, dude. I'll start with this one. When I was talking about Goatman the other day, guy reaches out to me, tells me, and it's been such a whirlwind week this past week. I got like 30 new stories from just listeners. I didn't have to go into the archives to do anything. They were just throwing them to me. And they were pretty weird. And and this is the sad, sucky part, is that I had two that were like synchronicities that kind of lined up with each other, and I can't for the life of me remember what they are or what I did with the file. If you were somebody that reached out to me recently and gave me a story, I had some stuff get wiped out. So if you could please just resend it. I know it's a pain in the butt, but I appreciate you sending stories, and I'm sorry that I just lost them, but I just lost them. So I'm going through a lot right now, just trying to navigate the waters of some, I had this person that was helping me. We're supposed to already be building a house right now. This person just absolutely they're not doing their job, not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so I'm done with this. I got to now start over and move into another direction. So we're looking at getting into another house somewhere, which is a huge hassle because now I'm going to have to move into a house and then try to build this other, people suck, okay? They lie, they steal, and then they lie some more. They lie to cover up their thievery. They lie to cover up their lies. They backstab you. They do all kinds of crap. But through it all, you have to persevere. And there's no, you can't stop and just go, oh, I'm going to cry and go kick rocks for me. It's the worst thing. Because when you laugh, the world laughs with you. When you cry alone. My dad taught me that. He didn't teach me a whole lot, but he taught me that. He taught me all the negative lessons of life the hard way. He was a very unloving and uncaring and cold individual, but I learned from him, even if it was just what not to do and how not to treat people. And I actually feel very sorry for that man. I don't hate him. I forgive him. I forgive you. If you're listening, Dad, I know you're not, but I forgive you for being the world's crappiest dad. And even though your wife can sit there and pump you up and lie to you and tell you were a good dad, you were not a good dad. You were a very bad person. I don't think your family really know, your cousins and relatives and brothers and sisters, I don't think any of them really know the depths of how bad of a person you were. I don't know how you are now because I don't talk to you. Maybe in this last year or 2 years as I've talked, maybe you've changed and you're all good, but I doubt it. But I forgive you. I'll say that publicly. I don't hold any ill will. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to deal with you. Don't call me. Don't whatever. Just be on your side of the corner of the world. And, just know that I don't hate you. I just don't care to deal with you. But you can't hold on to hate, anger. I was reading somebody's near-death experience. They went to hell. I'm going to start with that one, okay? I had somebody's near-death experience. This person went to hell. It was horrible. It was a horrific, horrible experience, but it changed her life. Or I'm sorry, his life. Hell, what happened was they went and they were burning. They were in torment. And because this loud booming voice, which I believe was God, I don't know that it was. And when I talk about these things, people think, well, that's how Josh Turner, he's crazy. He thinks all this crazy stuff. I don't think this. I'm telling you what people told me. I'm telling you what people say. When I talk about other religions, they think that, oh, he's subscribing to Hindu. Did I say I was Hindu? No. I'm giving you their perspective of what they believe and how things line up. It's just weird, right? We're here to talk about the weird stuff. So this person went to hell. They died. They had a heart attack. They got resuscitated. In that time that they were dead, clinically dead, they left their body and they got drugged down by something they couldn't see, some sort of force, pulled them down into a spiraling darkness, and they went to hell. Now, I've heard this about a dozen times, okay? And I could do a whole show on it, which I maybe will do. But this particular incident was horrific. And they saw people they knew there. Just all burned up, like they were burning, just perpetually burning. And I can't possibly open my mind and empty it out to you and tell you all the things that I know about the nature of this universe. I wish I could. But what I'm going to do is, I believe, call Anthony here, because I want to make sure this is correct. But I believe there's a way that I can interact with you individually, or in smaller groups. And I think you can do that through Patreon. But I have to make sure. that this is correct. But I was told by a fellow, like a colleague of mine, who was telling me some stuff the other day. Isn't it correct we can correspond with them through Patreon?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to start doing is one day of the week that's not Tuesday and not Friday, I'm going to start corresponding with people through Patreon. And that day, and because it's a small group, we don't have a bunch of Patreon subscribers, but you will be an elect group of people if you're a Patreon member, and we will correspond, and I will start to give you information that you will not get or cannot get on the show, or I will go more in depth in this information, and so you can learn. Because the most important thing right now is that I teach you, that I learn. You learn, okay? I'm not telling you I'm some spiritual guru, but I'm a spiritual guru, okay? So I'm just telling you, this is what we have to do. And I have to preface it with, I'm just kidding. Somebody said, why do you always say you're just kidding? Because dumbass people will go, he's crazy. Because they don't understand jokes. Remember jokes? Back before everybody got offended? Yeah, we used to have those. Remember those jokes? I'm just messing with you. They never existed. Mandela effect. We never laughed. We were just all the time like this. We were always depressed. We always had anxiety and insomnia. And then we went to our psychotherapist, Lothar.
Yeah, we had caveman therapists.
Lothar Greenberg. That was his name. Look, I'm going to tell you right now. He was my therapist. He's like, you have a lot of problems, a lot of anger up here. I said, okay, what do I do? Well, take a lot of pills and then call me next month. Okay, thank you, sir. That'll be 1,000 million coins, which we haven't invented yet. So rocks, substituting is berries. That'll work. Thank you. And that round thing, the wheel. Yes, I just invented that too. Thank you. What? What just happened? Goodbye.
This heavy rock makes that head voice go away.
I'm just saying. So this person went to hell, right? So what ended up happening, they learned through this booming voice that they were not going to heaven because they did not love. They didn't understand what love was. Now, this person admitted to me. They said, I don't know what the heck love was. I didn't understand it. I thought I loved my mom and dad. I loved my child. I guess I really didn't. They didn't even love themselves, which you have to love yourself first. But the problem is too much of any good thing is a bad thing, right? Because right now what we have are men and women who are lovers of themselves. That doesn't fly. Okay? You have to love your fellow man and your fellow, and even your enemies. I love my enemies. I hate to say it. I mean, I have a lot of enemies out in the real world, whatever. You guys probably don't know any of them. I mean, you know. I think most recently I was supposed to be a part of a project, and I think I may have gotten cut out of it because maybe I'm not the most popular guy with some of my peers. Maybe I'm too bigoted, as they said on Apple Podcast, because I'm too Christian. Then the Christians are like, "Oh yeah, you're talking about all these other religions," and so I can't win for losing. It doesn't matter. It's like I said before, his voice is just too quiet. Sometimes it's way too loud. He needs to have more dignity, or else he's way too proud. You know, it's always that way. This person goes to hell, and they cannot understand why they're going to hell. They're like, I accepted Jesus, I did all these things. The problem was, no matter how much you go to church, or what religion, what race, what gender you are, it doesn't matter. If you don't, and this is the quote my friend Abe sees. If you don't have a love foundation, you don't have anything. I agree with him on that, 100%. That's one of the things that brought me to bury the hatchet with that guy. Because he's absolutely right. Your foundation has to be built on love. All the other principles of goodness come from that. Jesus says that love, look up the verse. It's love covers a multitude of sins. I want to give you the verse. What he means by that is that you can, I mean, there's a lot of things that can be undone by love. A lot of bad can be taken out of this world by you being a good person, a loving person. When you do good, it should not be for a reward in heaven, because that is wrong. You got it?
Mm-hmm. Peter 4:8. Above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins.
Peter 4:8. Let me say something. Peter 4:8. That's it right there.
I have another example that might give some people perspective of what it might be like. Is say you're going to work out. What matters in a workout isn't what you're doing, but the intensity of how you do it. So if you're kind of just messing around on a treadmill instead of actually like really wanting to work out and improve yourself or do something that might help you, then you're basically just wasting your time. And it's the same if you have belief without faith or one or the other. It doesn't really work. You have to. I mean, that's the way I kind of see it, at least.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody who's donated. Overbuilt Automotive, thank you for that. Carl says much love to everyone at PRT. Of course, Carl, we love you too, brother.
Thank you, Mark.
Carl's awesome. Grace, so sweet. Mark Fitzgerald, awesome guy. I've been talking to you lately, Mark. A lot of good people. This person that sent me this story, I know that they're not going to want me saying their name. They didn't say whether I could say it or not, but I don't know. I just figured it's best to just leave people's names out of it. I mean, everybody thinks we're a bunch of weirdos. Oh, you do that, you think Bigfoot's running around? Gotta hear that all the time. Before I, get into an argument, which I don't even do anymore because it's not worth it. Love covers a multitude of sin, right? But this person didn't have love. They didn't have a foundation of love or forgiveness. Forgiveness is a big one. And a voice told them, like, you don't forgive. You've been given chances over and over and over and over again, and you just keep not doing it. You're holding on to grudges. You're holding on to anger. You're holding on to hate. Then they were thrust back into their body. When they came back to their body, then they realized hell's real. Hell is a real place. I've never denied that it was. People had accused me of saying that heaven and hell don't exist. I never said that. What I said was there are multiple levels of it.
It might not exist.
And I don't do anything based on a reward in heaven or a punishment in hell. If you're living your life because you're afraid to go to hell, and that's why you're doing good, it's because you don't want to go to hell, you're wrong. You were on the wrong side of whatever you're supposed to be doing. If you're doing things because you expect some kind of reward, because somebody told me one day, they said, the streets are paved with gold in heaven, and I want to be there. I want to be around that. I want to have a mansion in gold in heaven. And I'm like, really? They really said this. I've heard people say this. And I'm like, wow, really? I could get that. That's the least most important thing to me. Is going to heaven. I mean, and just seeing things from the earth that we see every day. That's not what I want. And when I die, I honestly don't feel like I'm going to heaven or hell. I think I got a lot of things to do. I think God makes you his vessel in many ways, and you go about it and you do it. Now, not in the way that the guy that killed Jeffrey Dahmer, he's like, I'm God's vessel, I'm his vengeance. And they made him into like some sort of superhero. He wasn't. He was a sicko, just like Dahmer, who killed him, who didn't have the right to do that either. And he killed him. And I just remember thinking, if that dude would have bucked up to me like that, he would have been my 18th victim. But that's bad, right? But Dahmer, who had accepted Christ, just laid there and died and accepted it because he didn't believe he was supposed to live because of what he did. Let me give you a story. This is a Buddhist story. It's called The Monk and the Outlaw. You know about this one, Tony?
Maybe if you get into it.
The Monk and the Outlaw. The outlaw goes to the monastery and he talks to the Buddhist monk and he says, I want to change. I want you to accept me. Let me work in the monastery. Give me a little food and drink and I'll clean. I'll do this. I'll do. The Buddhist monk says, no, you're a sinner. You're an outlaw. I don't want you here. Get away from me. Well, eventually he goes to another monastery and that monk accepts him. And then one day the Buddhist monk dies. He goes to a hell realm. And there he's confronted by spirits, whatever, angel beings, whatever. They tell him, you're going to have to go back to earth. And you're going to have to be a slave. And he's like, why? I said, well, you can be in hell. You didn't love. A man came to you and wanted help. And you turned him away because he wasn't righteous. When unrighteous people come to you, you're supposed to try to help them. Now, if they spit on you and burn you, try to kill you, whatever, then you turn them away. But Jesus wasn't just hanging out with the good guys and just looking and go, oh, look at those bad people over there. I'm glad I'm not them. That's not how it works. And I'm sick and tired of people not forgiving and not showing love. And I'm getting made to trash talk me because I make peace with people who have said mean things and bad things and done bad. Who cares? Talk about me. Talk about my dead mother. Talk about whoever you want to talk about. I don't care. Okay? Because right now, what I need to worry about is how I'm doing. And each one of us needs to evaluate ourselves and be like better people than the day before. So my job is to forgive. That doesn't mean I have to forget and then trust you, because I won't trust you. But I forgive you, and I will move on with my life. So what happened to this Buddhist monk, he ended up coming back, and he ended up having a bad life. He had to do it all over again. Doesn't say in the story, in different versions that I've read, of what happens to the guy. But the outlaw, he found peace. He had forgiveness. He knew he was wrong. He was a killer. He did bad things. He had robbed people, taken things that weren't his. And that monk, the other Buddhist monk, the other temple, took him in. And when that outlaw died, he went to paradise. And the Buddhist monk that took him in and gave him a chance went to paradise too. They transcended.
Well, it's funny because I asked you this question. It's similar. I asked you, what do you think is better, a man who is wholly good, or a man who is evil but tries to be good? Mm-hmm. And I think you said the man who's wholly good should be better, but you can't fault the man who's evil for trying.
That's right.
Give him the effort. That's what matters.
And there seems to be this misconception too that someone who is, like, if you're a person who is structured and does good, just by structure, like it's too regimented or something, they can't handle it. And these people who are running around being chaotic and evil, how do you say it? Like, evil has no loyalty. There's no loyalty there. It will always fall. And I don't subscribe to this whole idea that there's just this one evil bad guy who's in charge of all of the bad guys. I don't believe that. Because that runs anathema to what the absolute nature of evil is. It runs opposite. Doesn't make sense. It can't be structure in bad guys because they're all bad. And loyalty is a true, deep-seated, good, moral thing. So it's very rare that you get a bad guy that's actually loyal. There's something that has to be drawing them to that loyalty. It's fear, or it's greed. It's tied to a sin every time. Whereas the good guys, who I believe I'm now one of the good guys. I try to be a good guy. A lot of people think that they're good and they're really not. I'm sure I've been in that boat. But you hope to be, you try to be. So what I think is the good guys have a responsibility. Somebody told me the other day, they said, well, being a good guy sucks. And this is somebody really told me this. Like I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were joking. She's not a bad person, but she said, being a good guy kind of sucks. And I was like, what do you mean? She said, because your hands are tied as a good guy. You can never truly, it sucks trying to be good, And I said, dude, it's much better than the alternative, because the bad guys, you will never, ever be able to trust your fellow bad guys. The fellow bad guys will always backstab you. They'll always betray you. They'll always do whatever, because that's what bad does.
There's no honor among thieves.
There's no honor amongst thieves.
It's their saying. I mean, it's what they believe. I mean,
so, people say, well, we've seen Dogman and Bigfoot and Goatman, and they clash and they do all these things. Well, hell yeah, because they're not on the same team. Yeah, they're on the same team, but they're just as likely to kill one another as they are you or anybody else. There's no goodness there. It's just not. I mean, you know, demonic entities do what they do. I got a story from a woman who saw this demonic entity in the mirror. And she'd seen it a couple times. She saw flashes of it, whatever. There was an incident that happened where her boyfriend claims that this demonic entity got devoured by another one in a dream he had. And I said, I wouldn't doubt it. I had a weird dream like that where there was this big brown dog. He was so evil and he wouldn't let me pass. And then finally this big, meaner, more horrible looking black dog attacked it and started eating it. And I was like on a little railroad car and I was going by it and I finally went by it. It was almost like this other evil thing was put there to take out that other evil just so I could get by. Evil can be used to take out one another. I mean, it's oftentimes dark on dark. There's darkness. I mean, and we as the good guys, that's not our problem. What you have to worry about for your soul and your safety and your sanctity and whatever you want to call it is that you have a foundation based on love, based on charity and good and doing what's right. Be willing to give. I guarantee you, if you give to somebody, you'll get it back. I had a pair of sunshades earlier today. I was trying, and this is, I don't want to hear about this. It's like, oh, you're a good guy. I'm trying to tell you I'm a good guy. No. He said he liked them. I said, you can have them. They were nice. There's sunshades. Take them. I've always been this way. Whether I had money or I didn't have money, I've always been this way. Tony can attest to this.
Well, we spoke about this earlier. We said that what's important in giving isn't the actual act of giving, it's the feeling of giving. And it's like you shouldn't give unless you feel like this person needs it, and that you shouldn't give anything if you think you're going to gain something back, even though you probably will in the long run.
That's not why you should do it, though.
Yeah, and if you don't feel like that need, that like, hey, this person just needs this, and like I don't need it, so let them have it, then you're obviously giving this for another reason. When
you were a kid, I mean, every Christmas, every birthday, I took care of you. Well, and your siblings, I gave y'all tons of stuff.
So much. But like even us, like we were your family, so it's understandable. But there were people that weren't your family.
Well, we're not family technically, but yeah.
Well, I mean you're close enough to us. Yeah. I considered you family, so it was like it was understandable to where. But it's different for like people that I saw you help people that you barely knew, like you met recently, and you were just like, yeah, go ahead. Like, what do you need? So like, I don't know how many times I've been with you buying meat. And
the Christmas
just giving it to people. So it's just like those little things that I think really, stand and show a person's character. And it's like, it's not.
Devin here says, don't give with the expectation of reward. Exactly.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's why like Christmas is funny to me, because it became about the reward of taking and not anymore about the reward of giving. And I think like you really showed me a different side to Christmas, which was
the giving side.
The giving side. Which I think it's sad that how many people forget that.
One of the reasons why people hate Christmas is because they feel obligated to buy things for people.
So,
and even if you're broke, go to the Dollar General and get something.
And how many people actually feel thankful on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, people don't give a crap. If we all work together, though, folks, if we were to all just band together, you know what we could accomplish? We could do anything. And Jesus says, where two or more are gathered together in my name, it shall be done. People's forgotten that.
I saw someone post a really good comment about the Sith and how they have the rule of two, because
one
they
is
were
to
all
lust
killing
for the
each
power,
other.
and the other one is to keep the power. Yeah.
Before they had it, they just all killed each other so much, so
they would kill each other to the point where
they couldn't accomplish anything.
So people should stop hating Christmas, because that is actually an opportunity for you to build up good karma. But people don't look at it that way. They look at it as a burden, and they're angry because they have to buy something for someone. If that's who you are, you need to reevaluate yourself. I've been broke. And I've gone with $20, $30 to the dollar store when I was younger and just got gifts for people. At least it shows that you give a crap.
You know, being broke means you get the most thoughtful gifts because you have the money to spend on something.
Tom, you there?
I'm here, man. How are you?
Tom Cardos. What's up, my brother?
I'm living the dream, buddy.
Living the dream? What is the dream? What do you do for a living, Tom, besides go and hunt for stuff and do stuff? What do you do?
I am actually a heating and air conditioning service technician for commercial. Like, you know, when you go to like a I would say maybe a shopping mall or a school, and you see one of those really big units sitting on a roof, and like they get set with a crane or sometimes a helicopter. Well, I'm the one that either sets them on the roof and like hooks them up and installs them, or works on them and fixes them to get people air conditioning when it's 100 degrees out.
Wow. Yeah, and you know what? I bet people are glad to have you. When they see you coming, they're like, yes, we're not going to suffer.
Yeah.
You become the hero,
sometimes,
right?
you know, sometimes you're the hero, but sometimes you get a Karen here and there, and they don't want to hear nothing, but they want their air, and that's all they want to hear. And you tell them like they need a part, and you got a bad compressor or something, and like it's 2 weeks out, and you know, with the whole supply chain shortage, like they don't want to hear none of that. So you got to kind of, you know, make them happy on demand. Mm-hmm. So it is what it is, you know. But it keeps me in good shape. You know, it keeps me going. Good suntan, and then on top of that, I also do private work for people that I know on the side or whatever, and make extra money on top of that. So yeah, that's kind of cool too. Yeah. And
your last name is Cardos. Are you Greek or Italian? What is that?
I am not Greek. I am Sicilian and Puerto Rican.
Well, if you're Sicilian, you probably have some Greek in you.
Possibly. I mean, I know that bloodlines do go back so far, and you talk about Spaniards and, you know, all that. And I think I have a little bit of Hungarian in me as well. So, yeah. Because if you actually Google my last name, Cardos goes back to Hungarian for swordsman. Because I actually done that to check just to see the lineage, the heritage, to see what what else was involved, and that came up. So I mean, I don't know for sure because I'm not one of those people that does the DNA test. I don't trust that.
No, I wouldn't do that. But you can go to the Mormons and they'll make sure lineage.
Yeah.
Well, because I mean, in the Hungarians, let me give you real quick, folks here at home, and we'll get into some stuff here. But the Hungarians were actually. Their closest relatives are actually Finnish, which is really weird. But it's not. In a way, it's weird, but it's not. Because what it is the Vikings, they prowled all over the place, and they ended up in that region, and they just said, we like it here, and they took it. And so the Hungarians, their language is closer, and their DNA is closer to Eastern Vikings.
Oh, wow.
It's really weird. And they're actually an anomaly in that region because they're not related to the Romanians and they're not related to the Bulgarians. They're actually
I thought they were. I thought they were related to Romanians. See, that's real. Wow. Cool.
Well, you will because they're right next to each other. So there was a little interbreeding and stuff. But the Hungarians, for the most part, and you know, for a long time, they were part of the Austrian Empire. It was called the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but really it was Austria was kind of the senior partner and all that. But anyway, that's history. We're here to talk about something else. And Tom, you have a group, right?
Yeah, it's called the North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. I was actually in the chat a while back at NCCPP. I started this group about 1.5 years ago, and then I did a YouTube page for podcasting to get eyewitnesses, people who had experiences with Bigfoot, Dogman, cryptid, paranormal, whatever the fact may be. And kind of just to get their stories out there, get the truth out there, and help people that had, PTSD or traumatic experiences. Because I know from what I had when I was younger, I didn't have that outlet to use to my advantage. So I wanted to give that to people that can have it now, to kind of get them through hard times, or just have someone to talk to that can relate to, any kind of experience that they encountered in a way, to see how they felt.
So, guys, if you're listening, you're going to get my glasses next time. Tom, let me ask you a question. Okay, so you yourself, because we've been friends for a long time. I don't know how long it's been. Since I was with DER, you were,
and I was actually listening. I was listening to your podcast. I remember being on a roof. We set like 6 units the size of like a supersized van, and it was like the dead of summer. And I'm listening to one of your shows, and it was about the it was about the immortal people.
Oh yeah,
I guess it was in New Orleans, and that was one of the greatest shows I've heard. It was very weird, yeah. But go on. Sorry about that.
No. This is you right now. We're talking about you.
That's about 3 years ago, give or take.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because we've been corresponding for a while, and I had tried to get you to, and we kept missing each other. We were talking, trying to get things going. I've known Tom for a long time. And Tom, you've had experiences.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So let's get into that. Let's start with your Bigfoot. What do you got for us, Tom?
All right. So this was, I want to say 1997, 1998. Me and my brother were going hunting. We've always hunted, pretty much since I can remember, hunting in the woods, being outside, fishing, whatever it was. We decided to go on a bear hunting trip in Canada. And this was, it was like a 3-day trip. I think it was at the time, it was like $650, $700 to do. And you can bear hunt. You can go out and take a boat on the Ottawa River, in near Ontario. And then I think it was 2 days you bear hunted. And, we brought 7mm, 7 mag rifles. And back then, getting across the Canadian border, they really didn't care what you had on you, as long as you kind of told them you were going hunting. You showed them you had camouflage clothing, and your rifles were in boxes, and your ammo was separate, and they let you cross the border, no problem, to Canada. But nowadays, they won't let you bring nothing over there. So that being said, we got over there. We were hanging out with the hunting guide. He had a big Suburban. It was like one of those 1978, one of those big blue boat Suburbans that was, all jacked up, and it was a tank. You couldn't stop that thing. And he was taking us through some of the baiting areas where we were baiting for the bear. They had these, these handmade tree stands, and they would, they were scattered out, and they would bait probably about 50 to 100 yards from each tree stand. So the first night we did some baiting with the hunting guide. Pretty cool guy, and he was just showing us, the area and what to do and what not to do. So the one night we would go hunting, or actually it was afternoon, and they pick you up at night. They tell you, like, hey, we're going to pick you up here, so just kind of be in the area when it gets dark out. So we're in the tree stand. We don't see nothing for, really the whole time. We just see, like, birds and maybe some pine martens running around, really nothing else with wildlife. We didn't notice anything because back then I really wasn't focused on, Sasquatch. I always knew about the Patterson Gimlin, but I always thought that was out in, California, Bluff Creek. Never thought anything else was anywhere but in that section of the country. So we get out of our tree stands. We're bored. We're walking around. It's kind of getting to the point where it's getting dusk out, and we're like, well, we'll just go walk around and see the area, and then we'll go back into the trail and get picked up. So we go into a big clear area, and it's kind of like a clear, dry bog area, and we're about 70 yards from the tree line where the opening is. And you can see like a big, if you look in the woods, sometimes you see like a big opening that's like, it's almost like a tunnel cutout, but it's dark. And that's the way to get back into the trail that led down to us getting picked up. So that being said, we're hanging out, watching just nature, whatever. We hear something. We look that way towards that open area, and we see something, a huge figure of, like a humanoid figure. And this thing filled up the whole area of that opening in the wood line. And we just looked at each other, and we were like scared crapless. We didn't know what to do. And all of a sudden we heard the footsteps, like the 2 bipedal footsteps back and forth, and we could feel the ground shaking. And we kind of looked at each other, and we're like, that's not a bear, that's not a moose, it's not, it's nothing we can explain. We never saw nothing like that before, ever. And we were just kind of lost for words and didn't know what to do, because when you're in shock like that, you don't know what the hell you're going to do, especially back then, because there was really no technology, no cell phones. We didn't have cameras with us. So we decided we'll wait a couple minutes, we'll get out of here. So once we figured it was safe to leave, we left. And as we were leaving, walking through that trail to get to the logging road area to get picked up, we started noticing we were being followed. And it sounded like bulldozers going through the woods. And on top of sounding like bulldozers, it sounded like you saw Lord of the Rings, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I say this all the time when I mention this. Well, it sounded like the army of the orcs marching through the woods. That's how loud it was. That's like the guttural, that like, I would say dominant, like ape grunting kinda, you know? That's what we heard. And it was on both sides of us, flanking us. And we were just looking back and forth, eyes big as hell, don't know what to do. And we're just looking at each other like, we're going to die in the woods in Canada. No one's going to know. So we get back to back, and we both have like a 2 or 3 D-cell battery flashlight. Back then, flashlights weren't LEDs like they are now. So we couldn't see a whole lot. A couple minutes go by, still going on, and then we start seeing the headlights from the hunting guide's Suburban. He comes to pick us up. We get in there, and we don't say a word, and that was pretty much the rest of the trip. We just kind of laid low and didn't do much, and wound up some 80. I think he was 87 years old. I'm looking at the picture now because I actually took out some pictures from this hunting trip that I took, like on site, not in the woods, but on site, like on the lodge. And it was like an 88, 87-year-old man. His name was Bud. He was the only one that took a bear that trip. And they actually quartered it and everything on this block at the lodge. When someone gets a bear, they'll take it and quarter it and kind of process it up. And he's the only person that got one on that trip. And I'll never forget it. It's one of the things that kind of sits with you. And you just, it's always going to live inside you, that experience. It messed me up for a minute, but I didn't really let it ruin or affect my life because, I didn't know really how to talk about it. And back then, you talk about something like this, everyone's going to think you're crazy. So I just kind of put it on the back burner and kind of lived my life and did my thing,
Let me tell you this, and it's one of those things where, like, it didn't stop you though, right? Like, you just kept living your life. You went, yeah. Because some people, like, they'll have an experience and it will scare the heck out of them and they'll never go back. They're done. Yeah. That's it, absolutely. And I have a colleague of mine who's like, I've talked to grown men and they've cried from their experiences or whatever, and then they've this and that, and I was like, yeah, and I've talked to a lot of them who are just like, so I saw it and they still continue to go into the woods. As crazy as that sounds, I knew a guy who got attacked by a lion, a full-grown male lion. It was rogue, and it was like in Namibia. I think it was, maybe it was Zambia. Anyway, it was in Africa, and it attacked him and literally tore part of his shoulder off. He lived, he wasn't hunting them. He was working as a game preserve, and he got attacked by a rogue, and he lived. And what was crazy is, like, he still goes out there and does what he does. I had another friend who got attacked by a shark. It didn't bite him, actually tore a big old chunk out of the surfboard, but he still goes out there and surfs out there in San Diego all the time. These guys don't just stop, but some people do. Like, they're just me. I was like, I'm done. I'm not going anywhere where there might be a Dogman. I'm just not going to do it. I don't trust it. I don't. But it seems like it didn't bother you.
It didn't bother me a whole lot. Like I said, it was a traumatizing experience, but I think the extensiveness of it, like, you saw this thing up close and personal. What my sighting was at 60 or 70 yards, and it wasn't coming, like, trying to attack us. It was, it went the other way. It took off. It stomped the ground and, made the ground shake. And then they flanked us out. We couldn't really see that. We just heard it. And, it's kind of one of the things where you have that experience, that encounter, but like, the extensiveness of it wasn't as, extreme as maybe seeing one up face to face and maybe getting bluff charge. You know what I mean? Like, so it was one of them things where it didn't really affect me as bad as it could have if it was on a different, on a different note. Like, just like you said, the people get bit by sharks and they'll never go in the ocean again. And then you got the other people, these surfers, they get bit by sharks and 2 weeks later they're out surfing again. They just don't let it bother them,
Mm-hmm.
And I love
Jane
the outdoors.
Wolf is saying, what's all the strange sounds on Tom's end? I think there would be more likes if this channel had better audio. Well, I'm messing around.
Oh,
I don't hear any strange sounds on Tom's end. Do you guys hear that? I don't hear anything. Because I've had David buckle, so now Jane says that Tom's audio is something's wrong.
I got my earbuds on. If you want, I could take my earbud out.
I don't know. I'm asking my sound guys. Y'all hear something? Is Tom's bad? Because it fixed?
I mean, at certain points, it kind of sounds like he's like squirming around or like
Are you squirming around? Are you squirming around, Tom?
Like shuffling.
I swear I'm not squirming around. I'm standing in my kitchen, next to my stove, just talking,
Whoa,
like I'm
your house
talking,
is haunted.
like you're standing next to me. I
Okay.
mean, you know what? That's another story I can give you if you want. That's a whole nother entity itself if you want to get into that. So,
Well, you know what? We
Yeah.
got to record together, Tom. So we're going to save that for when we record because I got to get you on with me and Barton, and we can record with you. I've been wanting
Yeah.
to do that too. You got a lot of material, but I was going to tell
I
you
do.
something. Yeah, you do, and your Bigfoot. That wasn't the only encounter you had, right?
no, I had one on my property in North Carolina in 2016, the year after I moved into Charlotte.
So let me ask you this: the first one was where at?
The first one was in Ontario, Canada, at the KOA River Lodge.
Yeah. Okay. Say it again. I barely could hear you. What was it?
Canada, Algonquin State Park, and the Ontario region in Canada.
Okay, so yeah, so I don't know if you came through in there, but you were having a hard time coming. I heard you say that. So you were in Ontario, Canada. Now you went and you saw one in North Carolina. Now here's the rub. If someone is a believer in Bigfoot and they are a physical type person that they don't believe, and I got a lot of friends who are. I'm not gonna, I don't want to fight with them. Bless their hearts, they believe the way they believe. I believe how I believe. But I think it's weird, though, that's because their opinion is that you would not be able to do that. You would not be able to see one in Canada and then go to North Carolina and see one because the odds is astronomical. A friend of mine, he was telling me the other day, he goes, the odds are astronomical, and he kind of laughed it off like anybody that they're not being honest. I mean, they don't believe
yeah.
it, I mean, it's true that community is very closed off. They're like Amish or something. I don't know. Anyway, they're very closed off about
Yeah.
that, and I tell them all the time. I was like, dude, and they said that the reason people tell you, those stories because your show is called Paranormal Round Table. I was like, dude, some of these stories I actually plug off of other friends of mine's stuff, and I said, hey, can I use this? They sure, go ahead, because there's a free flow of information between me and 4 other organizations. Okay. So a lot of these stories, I didn't get all these stories. Some of them I've gotten, and then I'm able to use it, whatever, But the thing is, what happened to these thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have had multiple experiences, and sometimes in different places, even different countries? But yet there are people who go out there tromping around all the time, and they don't see anything. See, that's why I have a hard time believing that this thing is just a solid flesh and blood creature. Now, I think it appears as a flesh and blood creature, but I think that there's a
Yes.
reason why you, Tom, can see it more than once in your life, and it's totally understandable and believable, whereas another person, they may not. Well, here's another part of that rub. I have a guy who gave me a story. He saw this weird-looking creature in Arizona. Said it kind of looked like a Sasquatch. He wasn't sure. But then he was in a completely different part of the country. He was in Delaware. And he was visiting his girlfriend, who they eventually got married, but the girl that he was seeing. So right outside of Dover, and he saw a Bigfoot type creature. Those are two totally different places. Tucson is not Dover. I mean, those are completely different climates. I mean, completely across the country. And his encounters were very, how would you call it, banal? I don't know what the word would be. It was nothing. It wasn't like anything special at all. Not that your encounters are not special, sir. I'm saying, the guy that told me this, Kurt, that's his name. I don't think he cares. He's this old hippie guy I've known for years. But Kurt was he's like, dude, I saw this thing in Arizona driving home, coming home from work, you know, he was doing the 9-to-5 thing. He had a wife and 2 kids, and then they got separated, whatever. And he ended up going to Delaware because he met this girl online. And they were driving together, and they saw a Bigfoot. Same thing, on the side of the road. It was not even like doing anything magical. There was no great story to it, which is why I've never really talked about it on the show. But the fact that he saw it in 2 different parts of the country, just like you did. You saw one in Canada and one way down in North Carolina, and people will say, what are the odds of that? That can't happen. That's blah, blah, blah. You know, and I'm like, how is that not possible? Especially if you're what I call an experiencer. I believe that if you're open to seeing these things, and I think it's all about being able to see them, you know, whereas somebody might be with you and they don't see what you see.
Right.
They absolutely will, and they never will. They never will. This thing could be 5 feet from them and they would not see it. And
it's all about your intentions too, your heart, how you react. You know, if you got a pure heart, you're more able to maybe seeing something like this. And like you were saying, how do you see it in all these multiple states? I believe they can jump through portals. And, you know, and I have people I've talked to where they moved from one state to another state, you know, 600 miles away. And the clan of Sasquatch that's on their property is in the new state where they're living now. So how is that possible if there's not a paranormal aspect to this? There's some kind of paranormal supernatural abilities that gives them more than just flesh and blood. And I totally believe that. I'm on that boat 100%. If people call it woo, whatever it is, I mean, it's got to be tangible. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. It's not just a flesh and blood wood ape like some of these highly profaned doctors that you see on TV all the time. They try to push an agenda to keep the people, you know, stuck in one habit to believe that, you know, and it's agenda.
Somebody offended me the other day. He's a friend of mine, actually, but he really offended me. He said, oh, you're talking about all this woo-woo stuff. And I'm like, I said, come on, man. Don't do that to me. You can say what you want. All I'm telling you is thousands of stories are out there, okay? And you can't ignore that. And it seems like to me they strain on a gnat and swallow a camel. And it is actually easier for the general public at large to believe that this thing is more of a spiritual creature than a flesh and blood creature. The funny thing is the people who control the narrative with the Bigfoot thing, they are very much flesh and blood. But it's silly because as a whole, the people out there as a whole don't buy into that. And I've talked to hundreds of people who are they think it's just an absolute ridiculous thing that we believe in a flesh and blood thing running around out there. Now, I do believe the flesh and blood thing running around out there because I believe that it can do that. It can be that. Yeah. But I believe they will never find a specimen. They're just not. It's not going to happen. And I think that these things do exist and they do manifest as flesh and blood, but they're not going to let you find them. They're not going to let you. It just won't happen. I mean, and I'm sorry, I hate to burst people's bubble, but and not to be rude or argumentative with any of my colleagues, because I love a lot of these guys very dearly, and gals too. And but I'm going to tell you right now, I just don't. What I'm seeing right now, from all the research I've done, and I've done a ton of it, I spend a lot of my waking time interviewing and talking to people and getting stories, and you go down that rabbit hole enough times and it just keeps coming up with the same numbers. You know, it's like the public at large, though, overwhelmingly, okay, doing a show like this puts a lot of things in perspective, and you will talk to people who they're like, look, you know, the average Joe is going to tell you that I could believe that it's some sort of spirit, but I'm just having a hard time believing that there's a giant ape running around that we haven't discovered and there's no fossil record of it. I had one of my redneck friends, and he's like, man, I don't believe in Bigfoot, dude. I've been out in the woods for 25 years, hunting elk, hunting bear, hunting deer, hunting this and that, you know. And he's like, I would have seen this thing. And he's gone to places where there's supposedly all this Bigfoot activity he's never seen. So when I threw out the theory that it could be, I said, look, Ron, it could be a spirit. He's like, okay, I could believe that. That's why we don't all see it. It's a very simple thing, but for some reason they're like, oh, the science behind this, look at this footprint and blah, blah, blah. You know, man, I'm so tired of that, dude. I'm just ready to WWE smack somebody, dude. Because I'm like, man, I don't get that footprint on my face, dude. Okay, I don't care about that. I don't. It's
we've come past that. We're like way past footprints now. We're so far ahead of how things are. I mean, that's going back to like the 70s, and people still want to resort to footprints. You know.
I mean, yeah, and it's like this old guard. They're just determined to be stubborn and be what they are, and it's kind of like, you know, like how the millennials look at the boomers. They're just like the boomers, you know, and my generation is just kind of in the middle, going like whatever. But you know, they're at each other's throats, and I believe that they're both correct. But I really think that the people who are purely of the flesh and blood mindset they're behind. They're behind the times, dude. Because, you know, I think this creature's on par with Dogman. I used to think maybe it was just a cryptid, like it was undiscovered species of some sort of ape, because they can kind of look that way or whatever. But when you look at Dogman, it is very similar. It's like there's no precedence for this thing to exist in anything other than some sort of metaphysical form. I mean, where is the evidence? Where is the physical evidence of these creatures? I don't see it. I'm not getting any kind of information for that. And I'm just kind of like, you know, I've been up here for 3 years doing this, and I was doing Dogman encounters for about 6 years, you know, off and on, you know, and I'm like, where, you know, almost 10 years of my life that I've just been doing and getting stories from people straight up, like from, you know, the public at large, not just people I'm running into, you know. And where are these magical encounters where they just, and they find all this evidence of stuff? I'm just not getting that. And even if you do have it, you're still getting report after report after report, and it cannot be denied that these things are moving in and out of, I guess, portals. I don't know what they are. I mean, I'm talking, if you asked me 6 months ago, I even might have been a little more on that side. But it's just, there's just too much. There's just too much evidence, too much going in the opposite direction, and there's no evidence in that direction.
Oh, you're right. And you're right too with that. And another thing is, a lot of new investigators, they're kind of like, they start off flesh and blood, and then they start experiencing different kind of phenomena where things just don't make sense, and then they're totally on board with you know, a spiritual, you know, metaphysical factor as well, and it blows them away because they weren't on board, and then all of a sudden something happens and it throws them on board to a different, you know, factor of research, which is crazy.
And I would assume you've probably gone down the rabbit hole too. I don't even know about that. Have you?
I've been down and back, and still down in the rabbit hole. Yeah, it's one thing that you just dive into, and it's like every time you think you got an answer, something else pops up, and it just like throws your mind off. Like, what the hell? How is this even possible?
Mm-hmm. Can I get my glasses, please? Yeah. So one of the things, Tom, that I was going to tell you, because like I know that I think you and I both at one time were more sort of on the flesh and blood side, and I kind of saw you kind of evolving just like I did, and going down that rabbit hole, and I noticed more and more and more that not just you and me, but like many of our colleagues just going down that same rabbit hole, and you're kind of like, okay, where are we? Because I'm not seeing like this other side. I don't see any proof of it at all. I just don't. And then here's another funny thing. I sort of got threatened a couple weeks ago. I was basically told I needed to watch my back. And I'm going to the Bigfoot conference in Jefferson, and I was kind of told that I needed to be careful because there were people who weren't against me, but they were against someone that I was friends with or whatever, and they don't like her. And I'm like, what's it to do with me? You know, I mean, I'm not out there like proselytizing to people, trying to make them. I'm telling you what my truths are, and these people are getting offended. And I'm sorry if your dumbass belief doesn't jibe with reality. Well, you know, that's your problem. Just keep on going out there looking for this thing and never finding it, and I'll bet everything I own that you never will.
Yeah,
I mean, that's it, and then I'll double everything I own because you're not going to find it. But let's get into your second encounter. What happened to you in North Carolina, Tom?
Well, the other thing too is like they'll keep doing that to you or whoever, but they say if you're not pissing people off, you're not doing something right. So you got to be doing something right if you're pissing people off. That's just how it is in this community. It's just the way it works. Okay, so I'm sorry, I got my cat. The cat jumped up next to me. It doesn't want to leave. All right. We moved to North Carolina in 2015, had a house built with about an acre of land that butts up to about 50 to 60 acres behind it. And it backs up to a greenway trail, like a walk trail with a creek around it. You can ride bikes down. It's a paved little like half lane trail. And I started noticing a lot of deer on this property after I moved in. So I told myself I'm going to build like a nice stand on the property, and I'm going to hunt off that stand the next hunting season. So I had a compound bow then, but then I wanted to buy a crossbow, because when you get past your 40s, no one wants to hold a compound bow pulled back at like 70-pound draw weight for 10 minutes straight. It's just not good on your rotator cuffs. And once you get old like me, past your 40s, you don't want to be messing up your rotator cuffs.
Yeah.
So that being said, I got me a crossbow, went hunting, started going hunting, got some game trails put up there, got good pictures of some deer. So I decided to go deer hunting on my land, and I used a crossbow because in the city limits you can't use a gun, even though you hear gunshots every other day. But you can't hunt with a gun out here, which is crazy. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, if you're carjacking someone, you're allowed
Texas.
to use a gun.
You live in Austin, yeah.
Yeah, you can use the gun if you're carjacking someone and you're on that side. So
exactly. So I decided to get out in the woods and do some hunting. I did a couple, I don't know, maybe a couple weekends in a row. I had some, no luck. Got up, you get up in a tree stand around 5:30, 5:40, and you got about 35 minutes before the light comes through the woods. So one of these mornings, I go out in my tree stand. It's just like a normal morning. I got my crossbow wrapped around me. I climb up. I have a little extension ladder that goes up to my little homemade stand. I climbed up, and as I was climbing up, I dropped my flashlight, which I was like, oh, crap, I'll get it later. It's not a big deal. It's going to be daylight in 30, 40 minutes. I'm not going to really miss out on anything. And plus, I had my cell phone, which had a little flashlight on it as well. So I get up in a tree stand. I'm sitting down, getting ready, and I just start hearing something to my 9 o'clock, and this is about 30 yards from me, and I'm only about 15 feet in the air in this tree stand, and I'm hearing something at my 9 o'clock at about 30 yards, and then I hear something at my 1 o'clock, between 12 and 1 o'clock, and it's the same distance, about 30 yards. And I say this all the time because I've been in the woods my whole life. I know all the sounds of animals and this and that, and I know what an owl sounds like. I know what this sounds like. I know what coyotes sound like, and foxes. So I'm hearing something that sounds like a cross between an owl, a parrot, and a monkey. And it almost sounds like it has an Asian dialect to it, the way it's
an owl,
doing.
A parrot, and a monkey?
Yes, the cross between an owl, parrot, and a monkey. That's what it sounds like. And I'll just give you a brief of what I thought it sounded like to me. It sounded like, whoa! But all combined, it's like an owl, a parrot, and a monkey, if you can understand that. And I've heard that more than once from other people, eyewitnesses that had encounters with these things. And as I hear that, I just start shaking. I couldn't do anything. I'm sitting in my little tree stand on a little bench seat. I'm shaking. My whole body's convulsing. I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack. And I'm trying to grab my cell phone out of my pocket. And as I grabbed my cell phone, I dropped it off the tree stand. And that was my only resort to have some kind of light to see what was there. So I couldn't see these things that were going back and forth. And they were going back and forth about 3 or 4 times, after a couple seconds. And they were doing whatever they were doing. I guess they were alerting that I was up in a tree and I was next to wherever they were doing. I couldn't see them. It was pitch black. And I'm just, like I said, I'm shaking to death. I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack. I don't know what else to do. So I stand up. All I have in my pocket is a little .380 pistol. I know it's not going to do jack because, it's going to piss them off. So I stand up. I just put my head up and I look up and I'm just like, I'm not here to hurt you. I don't mean you no harm. I don't want to bother you. I just want to get a deer. You leave me alone. I'll let you be, and just, I'll get out of here soon. So 30 seconds goes by to a minute. Everything gets quiet. The forest is quiet. There's no sound anymore. You don't even hear a pin drop. That's how quiet it was. And then maybe 25 to less than 30 minutes, I start seeing the light come through the woods. And as I saw that light in the woods, I got the heck out of there. And I climbed down the tree stand as quick as I could, got to my house, and I probably didn't go hunting for.
Tom, you there?
Maybe yeah, I'm here.
Okay, you said you didn't go hunting and you kind of quit. It cut out right there.
Okay, well, I didn't go hunting for a couple weeks, maybe two months. I wouldn't go back in the woods, and when I did go back in the woods, it wouldn't be until it was daylight, because that's how bad it kind of traumatized me from just going in the woods. So I wouldn't go back until when I did go back, had to be daylight out. I wouldn't go in the dark. So yeah, it messed me up pretty good. And that's kind of when I started finding some of these groups out there. There wasn't a whole lot back then in 2016. There wasn't a whole lot of cryptid groups. I mean, the ones that I was in.
Oh yeah, because I remember.
You probably know of them. Yeah, there was Dogman X and Sasquatch Chronicles fans. And,
Dogman X. I got out of it because of the constant attacks on anybody who didn't believe that it was a physical creature, and they like to go after women too. Anytime a woman said anything like "shut up," and they went, and Dogman Whisperer came out and gave everybody a lecture, blah blah blah. And I tried to leave quietly, but that wasn't in the cards. Yeah, I remember those terrible groups. Yeah, you're right. There wasn't a whole lot out there of anybody of a differing opinion. And I just kind of stayed. You remember back in those days, I didn't say a lot. I was kind of just there. I didn't really. Yeah. I didn't get a lot involved. There was always infighting. I kind of sat on the sidelines, and then when I decided to leave that group, and all hell broke loose, and several people came after me. P. Pyrus and Alice Smith and what's his name, Dictardo. They came after me because they didn't like that I was not going along with their narrative, and I wasn't okay with them attacking people for their religion or their spiritual beliefs, and they didn't like that I was. They're always going after women too, and I was just like, this is getting ridiculous. So I told Piss Pyrus that I was going to leave, and he went and ran and told everybody and started up a war against me, and that was when my wife was in the hospital. So I took it kind of personal, because that was going on. And then I asked him out of kindness. I said, "Can you not do this right now? I'm going through a lot." Nope, no mercy. No, yeah, Dogman, Dogman. Yeah, you're gonna get it. Yeah, Dogman. So that me and him just never will be cool. I forgive him. Then I forgive all of those people. I really don't care. But that's what they did, and it was it's still that way. I mean, you get these. Okay, somebody said balls of light. Look, this is the thing. If you have a dog or a men encounter, a Bigfoot encounter, there are a lot of researchers who will not touch it. They will absolutely not touch it if you have a ball of light involved. I've even seen some researchers who were so full of crap that they will actually take this one woman. She had a Dogman encounter, was a Rougarou. And this particular person who wanted to write I think he's writing a book right now. He wanted to take her story, but he wanted to leave out that this thing plopped itself out of a ball of light. And she's like, "Well, why can I not talk about that?" And he told her point blank. He said, "Well, that just doesn't make any sense." And I'm like, "Well, it doesn't make any sense to you because you're a dumbass." But yeah, it came out of a ball of light. So she's supposed to leave that part out. So what happened? Oh, it walked out of the tree line. That's a lie. So these people would rather you lie. They would rather you tell a lie than tell the truth about where these things come from or how they appear. Yep. It's so weird. It's like they pretend like they have integrity, but the truth is the truth, and they lie. They will literally lie. I've read their books. I'm sitting there and I'm looked at them, and I'm going like, how full of crap are you really to sit there and cut out somebody's encounter? And there's another guy, I'm sure everybody knows who he is, does the same thing. I mean, it's like he'll take your encounter, but it better follow a narrative. They don't hurt people, let's put it that way. They have nothing to do with the government. That's just right out. and one time he told me why he did that, and I can understand kind of why, but it's still a lie. But anyway, he's not interested in telling any of the truth basically, and then they do this whole thing where they'll get that encounter and that's it. Now the problem is the ghost community, the Bigfoot community is real bad about it. Dogman community is terrible about it. The UFO community is probably one of the worst. And they all have these talking heads who are kind of in charge of these communities. They're the ones who have seized control, and each one of them is full of crap. I mean, you look at the organizations, these you get these reports. I get all these. There's one particular one that's really big in the UFO, and I'm sure everybody knows, starts with an M, and then the other one, it starts with the B, F, whatever, I don't want to say their names because I don't want to have to fight these people, but anyways, they will absolutely not take a story unless it fits a narrative that the ones in charge want it to be. And I was told...
They don't want to see that.
No. And when I was told by somebody in that group in Dogman X, wasn't one of those main guys, it wasn't Lyman Young and all them other guys, it was a female. And she told me, she's like, you keep talking about Dogman and that it's not a flesh and blood creature, and you're making us look stupid. I'm like, lady, okay, we're talking about werewolves, okay? How much stupider are we going to look? How much dumber could you possibly look to the outside world? What does it matter now to the outside world whether they believe you or not? You're saying that there are 8-foot-tall werewolves running around. A lot of times when I say that there's this, the first people don't know what Dogman is, and when you tell them what it is, they kind of go, and they look at you like you're stupid, you're from Venus or something. They don't care. They just think it's retarded. And then I say, look, I'm not a, flesh and blood person. Says there's this Dogman thing running around in circles, whatever. People, it's just stupid. It sounds stupid. But the people who believe like that think that that's somehow more believable to the outside world. No, they don't. They think you're just a bunch of niche weirdos. They really, really do. In fact, I'm trying to put together a way to do this. I want to put out a poll. And I'm going to go to different cities. I'm going to go to like maybe 5 or 6 cities, and I'm going to hire, I have a guy that has a show he does out in LA. I'm going to have him go out there and ask the average person out there. I'm going to have the same thing in New York, and I'm going to do it in 5 or 6 different cities. And I'm going to get 1,000 random people. And I'm going to ask them their opinion on what they think Bigfoot could be. And to say, is it more believable to think that there's this giant ape and that's running around out there that we have no proof of, that has never been, it's been seen, okay, and it's done physical things, but, is it an easier idea to accept that it's a spiritual thing that could be running around, or is it's an ape that we have no proof of or no fossil records of? Do you know how many people, I guarantee you how many people are going to tell you, but these people in their little bubble, and the Dogman community is the same stupid way, they're going to believe how they're going to believe. And it doesn't matter. It does not matter. I mean, there was a guy, this guy told me he was camping, it was in Twin Falls, it's called, I forgot the name of the place. Anyway, he went camping, it was in South Dakota. And he said that this thing grabbed him and like was like carrying, like literally was carrying him off. He was immobile. Like he could not move, like he was in suspended animation, and this Bigfoot type creature began to carry him away, and there were 2 others that were there. And they all took off walking together, and they heard somebody coming down this trail, and they all just kind of stepped to the side, and they were gone. And he couldn't move. He could look up, move his eyes, and see, but it was like poof, they were gone. It wasn't like cloaking or anything like that. He goes, they were gone. Like the one on the left and 2 on the right, and then poof, they were gone. And he was just laying there. And he was like, thank God that these people came walking up the trail. And he sat up and was just, there was nothing there to prove that they had even been there. They were just as flesh and blood as you and I, but they were gone. The problem is that people don't understand the nature of reality. If they really understood that we are all just vibrations, we're like atoms who have all just agreed to be, okay? And
Yeah.
it's so hard to wrap their minds around. They're just like, they are so grounded in, and the funniest thing to me is when they start talking about science. They start talking about, I believe in science. Science is so incomplete. Science can't tell you anything. They can give you ideas and they can postulate on theories, but that's about it. It doesn't go much beyond that. They can't even tell us, if you go and look at a microscope and you go as far down as you can, there's nothing there. I'm dead serious.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is so weird that people can, and they have no clue, and then it gets to the point where I'm so tired of it. I'm so done with it. I'm so aggravated because you can't convince these morons, dude. And they really are educated morons. They really are. And you can't tell them, anything. They are absolutely determined to believe the way that they want to believe, and you can do and say anything you want. You could march 1,000 people in front of them that will all say the same thing, and they would call every one of those people a liar. Then they tell you that you shouldn't be so stuck in your belief and whatever, and I'm like, really? So that right there just tells me I can't do business with these people, because obviously there is a malfunction that's going on, and so that's what's led to me having just kind of being, on my own. Last year, Tom, it was the first time that I had agreed to go on. I did about 11 other shows. I think it was 11 at the time. The first year, it was last October. Well, welcome to October, everyone, today. And I'm going to be, I'm actually going to be recording tomorrow with somebody on their show, with Dark Waters. And I'm honored that he wants me to come on and talk. That's cool, but I'm not doing a lot of shows. I'm just not. I'm just, I get a few offers, and then when I don't want anybody to get offended, but it's like, I'm just not feeling it, man. Because I don't want to deal with, I just want to stay to my own and do what I do, and everybody else can go to hell. That's just kind of what I feel like right now.
You don't want to get burnt out either. I mean, you got your own thing you got to do. Once you got a full-time job and you have your family as well. So you have to do all that and juggle it all, and you've got to fit one thing in and make it all work. So you also don't want to burn yourself out. And I would actually love to have you on as a guest sometime. I record on Mondays. And the other thing I was going to say too is people don't realize that the secrets of the universe is frequency and vibration. That's like two main factors that can kind of contort everything involved with the universe. I mean, if you can understand that, you'll understand more things. And just like, the Quantum Bigfoot, Ron Moorhead's book, that's another thing that gives you that metaphysical factor into thing, and it's not just all flesh and blood. There's more involved, and if you can understand that, you'll see you'll see a lot more into that meaning.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I've been battling an uphill battle for a long time, and now I've finally marshaled enough forces together to push back. And now they're like, oh, you're a bully. You're pushing your agenda, blah, blah, blah. Well, you were pushing your agenda for a long time, and it wasn't working. Now you're living in a van down by the river. So, the agenda was being pushed down my throat for 10, 20, 15 years, however long I've been, I guess I started really getting into the research in 2007. But I mean, it's like I've been going down this rabbit hole for a long time, and what people don't understand is I didn't start here. I did not start from a spiritual perspective. I thought Bigfoot was something completely different than demons. I thought that demons and Dogman and Bigfoot were all three different things, and that there was no connection to any of it, no connection to UFOs. Ghosts were something completely. I mean, dude, I had it all compartmentalized, just like we're supposed to, like good little automaton droids. And then and now I'm where I'm at, and people want to jump all over me, and I'm like, okay. The funny thing is that it took me 15 years of studying. Now, when you go and you actually take 30 years of stories and 15 years of just studying one or two of those specific, and just really go down those rabbit holes, then you can come and tell me about my beliefs, okay? But until you put in that time and that effort, and you read 1,000 books, which I've read over 1,000 books in my life, then you come and tell me what you think about nature, about science, about history, and about the paranormal, and then I might sit and listen to you. But until then, I really don't. You don't have anything new to tell me, you know. And that's the thing that gets me. And I don't mean to dump this on you, Tom, because you're not the guy I'm mad at or the people that I'm upset with. But you damn right I'm upset with a few people in this field because I'm pissed. I just, you know, I'm not going to be. First of all, I'm not going to be talked to like I'm a child by people. I'm going to be talked down to, which people have done, and then I'm not going to be stood up and ostracized because my view or belief doesn't jibe with whatever baloney you're pushing or whatever story you're trying to push or whatever. And I'm going to be here doing what I do, whether I'm on TV or in a documentary or if I'm in a book or if I'm in a show, somebody's show. If you don't want me on there, not you, Tom, but these people, then go to hell. I don't really care. It's not going to change my life. God bless you. Go on, do whatever you got to do, or go to wherever you're going to go. You know, whatever plane of existence you're going to go to.
You can't appease everybody in this community. You can't appease everyone. I mean, it's nice to think that you like to, but you're always going to have, you know, you're always going to have your haters or people that are just, they're giving you that Marsha look, you know, that nasty side eye Marsha stare. And every time you do something, they're Marsha, there she is again. You know, it's like, what the heck? Just let it be, give it a rest, and let me do my thing. And, you know, you do your thing. Don't worry about me, and you worry about your stuff, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing. And, you know, one day I'll be happy, and you won't, you know?
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
That's right. And I think we need more people like us to join together and just kind of, you know, and with the project that we're about to release, folks, which there is a release date. We're going to try and release it by this coming Friday. I believe. Hey, Anthony, could you come over for a minute? I want to ask. I want to make sure this is correct. I don't want to lie on the show. How many episodes? How many? Not episodes. There's going to be a bunch of episodes. How many episodes? Well, yeah, I guess you can give the episodes because how many are there that we're releasing?
It's going to be over a dozen.
Okay. So we're going to release over. Oh, it's definitely over a dozen. It's got to be. It's going to be over a dozen episodes that we're going to release on Friday. Okay. Friday, Saturday. That's what we're shooting for, and we're going to drop it all at once, and that's your Halloween right there. For the Halloween show, it's going to be on a Tuesday, and we're going to let people come in and tell their story. Everybody can tell a story or two, and then they can go. And we'll be telling stories too, but it'll be a little different than we've done it in the past. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, a lot of things going on. I'm going to the Bigfoot conference in Jefferson in a couple of weeks. I don't know, whatever, a week or two.
Where is that in Jefferson? What state is that in?
It's in Texas. It's up in North Texas, and I'm going up there. I was looking forward to it, but now I'm just kind of not. I don't know. I'm just not really feeling it. I don't know. It has nothing to do with anything other than me just being tired and being burned out. And I'm just like, I just could never be one of these people that goes to all these damn conferences. I can't. I got enough problems being in meetings all day. I was in meetings all day today.
I actually had to cancel out of one because I was invited to actually speak and lead people on an expedition, and I had to cancel a month out because I was on call for my job that weekend, and I started there like I was only there for 2 months, and they weren't going to give me the time off or let me switch out, so I actually had to sadly cancel out of it, and I think D.A. Roberts wanted to take in my place, so luckily I got someone to fill in for me because I was kind of bummed out I didn't get to do it because it was like, you know, an expedition at night and then talking at a conference in Missouri, I believe it was, so, but I'll get to one this year. I mean, I'll try to at least. It's just, with scheduling and work and everything else and family, kids and school, it's really hard sometimes to, you know, do everything and, like, you know, kind of juggle things, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is amazing that people can actually work, like do what I do, running basically.
You run a business. You run a company. I mean, you're a security business, right?
Well, I also have a construction company.
Okay.
Yeah, I just started a construction company. I don't know how we're gonna do this or what we're gonna do. I want to flip houses. Well, we're already starting, but I mean, it's like flipping houses and doing whatever, and I don't know a lot about this, you know, and it's a new venture for me. And I coached for a long time, you know, I did a bunch of MMA and I coached people on boxing, wrestling, a lot of different. And I had somebody the other day offer me a job, like 2 days ago, offered on Sunday, I guess it was, they offered me a job. And they said, just give me 3 hours a day, I'll pay you $110 an hour, which is actually less than what I was getting privately. But I have to go to their gym and I have to train people for 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Most people say like $330 a day, that's great. I don't have time to go do that. If I did, I'd have to give up what I'm doing here. So I have to make a decision. Do I go and do that or do I do this?
When you love this, and you don't want to give up what you love. I mean, it's what you do. You've been doing it a while. You're good at it. I wouldn't give it up either. I mean, this is your thing.
I love boxing and
PRT.
fighting and kicking people too. So, that's
a good thing too. I mean, it gets frustration out. Using people as punching bags, great way to get frustration out when you're stressed out, especially when people all over start pissing you off. It's a great outlet. I get it.
Yeah, hitting bags is fun, and going through the circuits and doing that. It's fun. It's fun to bring up the new generation of fighters too, and give them some insight and show them what I know, because I was always good at what I did, and if I say that, then there's always people, he's bragging on himself, whatever, dude. If they ate a right hook from me, they wouldn't even be talking; they would just shut up. So,
absolutely.
But they always got to say something negative, and it just gets to the point where whatever. But so you had Dogman encounter too. What was that at, and what was that like?
Actually, I didn't have a Dogman encounter that I know of. I got a picture of something that I think might be a Dogman along
that's what it was. Okay,
because
I thought you had a Dogman encounter. That's right, you told me that. That's right. You have
this was along the Greenway Trail. Yeah, I have a picture of something that looks like a dog. I've asked several people. I've shared it with many people in many groups, and everyone says it's a Dogman. And what I was doing, I was riding my bike along this Greenway Trail along my house area. That goes through the neighborhood, and something just felt off. It felt off, like that. Like, you ever get that feeling where it's just something doesn't feel right? You got to stop whatever you're doing and just kind of like focus on whatever's drawing you into it. Well, that's how I felt, and I stopped, got off my bike, and I just decided to snap a couple pictures. I snapped a couple pictures, and I got this big black shadow behind a tree, maybe 30 yards from where I was standing in the trail, and you could actually see pointy ears behind the set of the tree branch that goes over it, right below the black figure. And then the weirdest part is there's a tree right in front of everything, and this tree looks like that nasty witch tree from the Wizard of Oz with the pointy nose, and it's like throwing apples at people. It looks like that tree. I can't explain it, and I even went back because I think when I first got this picture, I shared it, and I think Ryan was saying something like, go back to the first comparison and get another picture of that tree. Well, I went back and I could not find that tree for the life of me, and I was in the same area where I took the picture, but that tree with the funky nose on it wasn't there anymore. So I think that it had to be some kind of spiritual paranormal thing that just maybe manifested. I couldn't explain it, but all I know is the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and it was like it just drew me to it, and I had to stop what I was doing and get off the bike and just acknowledge that whatever was there, which was strange because I don't know. I never do that. I mean, obviously, when I'm driving down the road, I'm always looking in the woods, seeing if I could see something along the wood line. But that's just me after all these years. It's just like a habit.
And so you went and looked at it, and you were like, "What the heck is that?" I mean, that's basically what happened. Yeah.
But I didn't notice it when I was there. I mean, I didn't notice it till I looked at my picture that I took from my camera, because I didn't see it with my own eyes. I saw it when I focused on my camera and kind of zoomed in on the shot, and then I saw like a perfect figure of the pointy ears and like the black head and everything. It was pretty gnarly.
Well, let's go down. Let's do something real quick, Tom, for the audience here.
Yeah.
You're a smart guy. You've been involved in this a long time. You've taken a lot of stories from people because you have a group and you're a researcher. I respect you.
Yeah.
And you're not. I mean, you're one of the unsung heroes in this field. Honestly, Tom Cardos, everybody, check him out. He's got a group. But the thing is, Tom, and you have a show too, right?
Yeah, I do Monday nights. I do my podcast at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
I'll go
every
on
Monday.
your show. I'll go on your show, Tom. I'll be on your show.
Okay, cool.
I'll do it because I don't do a lot of shows. I'm gonna do a few this month, but because I'm not gonna do what I did last month. 27 days out of 31 in the studio. I'm not doing it this month, but I'll do.
You need a
your
little
show.
rest.
Yeah, I gotta have some rest.
Cool.
It was too much. I mean, but here's the thing. Let's talk about a couple of encounters here. Okay, let me give you one. This was a person. This happened up in Michigan. Oh, of course, Michigan Dogman.
Mm-hmm.
But this person said, this is what they did. It was actually a couple. It was a male and a female, and they sent me a voice clip on Messenger or whatever. And so I went back and I listened. And they said, well, we had an encounter, but it's hard to explain. So I talked to I talked to her first, and then the guy came, and then we kind of chit chatted, whatever. And they were convinced it was a Dogman. Absolutely, positively, it was a dog. You're sure it was a Dogman? The reason I was so adamant about asking them again is because they didn't see it. They never saw this thing. Not once did they see it. But it was growling. It was making really gruff, like grunting noises. It was around their house. And the only thing that makes them 100% sure that it was a Dogman was that their daughter's boyfriend at the time saw a shadow figure that had pointy ears, that had a dog-like head that went around the side of the building, side of of their house.
Right.
That's it. They live out in the middle of nowhere, the Upper Peninsula. Okay, so that's the only thing that made this couple believe, and he has a pretty good job. I mean, I don't want to, he's a professional guy. They do live out in the country, and she's a stay-at-home mom, or was. Now she's not really more. Her kids are teenagers, but she's a homemaker, whatever. And they were convinced this was a Dogman. They said, "Look, we know that this was a Dogman. We've been following and researching all this stuff, and all it was based on the way that they felt, and the way that they. But then when the daughter's boyfriend saw it when he went to pick her up to go to the movies." He saw this shadow thing that was about 8 foot tall that looked like a Dogman. I mean, it had like a werewolf looking whatever. Now, for 2 or 3 months this was going on, and they were convinced it was a werewolf because they could hear two-legged, whatever footfall. Now, if you take that case and you sit there and you look at that, now that's not a physical creature. No. You can't even see it with the naked eye. You can't even see it. So, I mean, but that is a Dogman encounter, and I'm convinced that that's a Dogman encounter. I believe they're telling the truth. When I was talking to this couple, they were just finishing each other's sentences. They were like, this is what happened. This is the absolute truth. And then the woman's like, I hope you believe me. I'm not lying. I do believe. Here's another one. We were talking about Arizona earlier. This one happened in Sedona, and it doesn't surprise me at all. This guy claimed that he saw a werewolf-type creature. This was in the city of Sedona, not out in the outskirts.
Oh, wow.
Come out of an orange ball that expanded to look almost like a portal because it was shimmering. It stepped out of it, walked around in a circle a couple times, and then went back in through the portal holding some sort of silver-looking object. Its hand. And then people say, well, this person, blah, 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 So anyway, he's like, people are sitting there telling me, this cannot possibly have been a Dogman because a Dogman's not going to come out of a ball of light that looks like a portal, and it's not going to walk around and go back in, And I'm like, that's absolutely what a Dogman does. I mean, that's just, if you can't understand that that's what they do, and that's what Bigfoot does.
Yep.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's just absolutely what they do. And why are thousands of people able to have a Dogman encounter in Vermont and have one in Florida with what looks like the same creature? Because these creatures are different than what you think they are, and our reality is different than what you think it is, and the nature of reality. What's even sadder is some of these people who are just like, oh, I'm into science. When you start throwing out science to them, then they start refuting that. because that particular science doesn't match their narrow-minded view of what these things are. Won't even entertain it or give it a chance. And what it is there's this crazy little high school mentality amongst. Let's just go with Bigfoot for now. With Dogman people, we already know lunatics or whatever. We'll talk about the Bigfoot people, and they have this group, critical thinking for the research of apes, whatever. I don't know what the crap it's called, whatever. And there's this guy who's like the class bully or whatever, and he keeps everybody in line by making a bunch of noise, and then all these other people are scared of this dude, like, oh my god, don't talk about the woo because you'll offend little Steven or whatever his name is. I don't know why y'all just give him the finger and move on. Who cares about this dude? And who cares about critical thinking and Bigfoot, whatever? Because the honest to God's truth is that these things you're not using critical thinking when you throw out 90% of anything that could be, the truth. And it's real easy for these people to take control and say the things that they say, do the things that they do, because everybody is agreeing that this is the narrative. And so when you do that, you get stuck in that narrative. That's it. You're caught in that unless you free yourself from that supposed critical thinking. I just think it's really crazy. I mean, it's like, how can somebody sit there and control that? Well, they can't. The only way a demon can ever even influence your life is if you allow it. I mean, it's the truth. The only way that these people can do anything is if you give them that kind of authority, that kind of power. Why would you let an idiot who's just basically, wants to be a bully, and, why would you, put up with this guy? I mean, this guy's an ass clown. Why would you put up with it? I don't understand that kind of mentality. Like when they were doing the thing with Dogman X, I just shrugged them off. So go to hell. You're all crazy. I mean, and there can be a large group of people that get together and do crazy things. An entire movement can be completely insane, and they'll get thousands of people to march around and be stupid. I mean, it happens all the time, and history repeats itself over and over again. So you have this little army of morons who are basically in charge of the narrative. No matter what the people say, no matter how many people come out and say this is the truth, this is what's happening, they're going to sit there and mock it and make fun of it, and everybody falls in line because the bullies are calling the shots. When the truth is, if they would go out with the real narrative and look at it from every angle, they would get a wider audience. And, if it's about money, you'd make more money because you'd have more people who'd be willing to listen to you.
Oh, yeah. Open-mindedness goes a long way. I mean, yeah, it goes a long way. I mean, like the fact on a short-minded thought doesn't really get you anywhere. Like you were talking about orbs before. My friend Greg Yost, a.k.a. Squatch Man, he had an encounter with, several Sasquatches. They formed out of a green orb, and he was out in some state park in Indiana, and he couldn't explain it. It blew him away. It blew his mind away, and it put him on the realm of something other than flesh and blood, because he was under that flesh and blood. And then once he encountered that, it just threw him for a whole loop, and he was kind of into the whole, the woo factor, if you want to call it.
Well, and that's the woo thing. That's what these people they're like, yeah, it's a woo. Yeah. The people that come up with that, dude, they just need to be, expurgated from this whole thing. The thing is, I guarantee you these people, I guarantee you, if it happened to them, they would have to literally change their thinking overnight. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that most of these people who they've had one very short encounter, typically the people who aren't the woo, the old guard, they've had one encounter, typically, and it was on the side of the road. That's all it is.
The good old Russian Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's a Russian Bigfoot. It's on the side of the road, and that's about it. That's all they see. And so they're like, oh, I'm of the opinion this is a flesh and blood thing because of blah, 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 because you haven't experienced it more than once. Well, anybody that's experienced it more than once has got to be full of crap, blah, blah, blah. And they'll tell. I've heard that from these people multiple times, and I'm like, man, this is just. it's so hard to take, and then they're so dead set on their crazy ideas, and you're just like, you can't convince them otherwise, even when they've seen it, because they think, well, they've only seen it one time. Well, now, how about this? How about you see it again somewhere else where you live across the country, or you see it again and again and again? They start to do weird things. Then you're forced to go, okay. So 90% of the people who end up thinking like you and I are because they see these things more than once. Now with me, it was very simple. I didn't see it multiple times, okay? I talked to multiple people, like 1,000 people who said this is what's happened to me. And when you go into a person, go into an interview with somebody, which has happened to me and Martin Nunley multiple times recently, and we're just like, hey, tell us about your Bigfoot experience. We started noticing the pattern. It was like they lived in a haunted house. They had all kinds of weird paranormal stuff that happened to them, or they saw UFOs. They had UFO stuff happen to them. But lo and behold, a lot of these people have given their stories over to these so-called Bigfoot researchers, who totally, completely ignore all of that other stuff because it doesn't fit the narrative that they're pushing. And to the point where they will even skirt around it and change it into something that it's really not. The Bigfoot story becomes something completely different because it didn't happen in the book that they're writing or the podcast that they're producing. It doesn't happen the way that they're saying it did.
Or the grant from the Discovery Channel that they got to be on, 10 episodes of so-and-so series to record. Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't fit that agenda. So they can't push it.
Yeah.
Or they lose their grant money.
Though, and that's what's funny about it is, why would you take that money when the bigger money is actually into the hauntings?
Yeah.
They outnumber them 10-1. Those shows about the spirit outnumber those shows 10-1. There's only a few handful of Bigfoot, and there's like a ton of stuff about ghosts, because people can understand that they can relate to that, because we are spirits inside of a body more than they can a giant monkey man running around taking a poop in the woods.
Yep. Well, the book of Enoch tells all about all the fallen angels and this and that kind of explains some of the spiritual, weirdness into what happens with some encounters, but then also with hauntings or just any kind of figure people will see. It can be partially fallen angel. I'm not going to say the N word that starts with an NEPH, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, because that's a whole nother monster itself. But I mean, you know what I'm talking about. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
people use that as like that'll be like, not, I wouldn't even say a scapegoat, but they'll use the sons of the fallen ones. They'll use that that whole bloodline. That'll kind of be a whole nother that's a whole nother monster itself to talk about. So I'm not even going to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, well, you're talking the Nephilim.
Yeah.
Okay, nobody wants to talk about that, and except for people who want to know the truth, and so I get a lot of people who want to know the truth on my show. One of the things, I was talking to somebody about earlier. I was at dinner, and I was talking to a young lady and her boyfriend or husband. I don't know what his relationship was with her. I think they were together, but she had a Thor thing on her arm. It looked pretty cool, and I was talking to her about it and stuff. And I was like, Thor was a real guy. And she was like, she started shaking her head. Yeah, he really was. And she started talking about giants. I said, yeah. If you go down that rabbit hole, I mean, there are giants in every major religion. Every major religion talks about it. One of the things, though, that one of my Muslim friends and me kind of clashed on, he said that in their belief as Muslims, they don't believe that angels have free will. And I said, that's okay, but you believe in Enoch, the book of Enoch. And he goes, yeah. And I said, then how the hell did Enoch, the book of Enoch, have fallen angels? They fell. These were angels that fell. So that means that they went against the will of God. And he says, well, yeah. And I said, okay, but I thought angels didn't have free will. Another thing, too, when they talk about 200 fallen angels, I honestly believe that it could have been more than 200. And the reason I believe that is because I think when you're given the names of certain people, look at the military. When you're given the names of certain people, you're given the names of the high-ranking people. They're not naming off privates. They're not naming off E2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s.
Right.
They're naming off generals, majors, and colonels.
Well, one third can be many more than you said. 200. I mean, one third can count for. There's no number.
That's the thing. That's the rebellious angels. The rebellious angels and the fallen angels are two different things. See, Lucifer had already fallen, and I believe that the 200 watchers were put upon the earth to protect. But you're going to have more than just 200, because a third of the angels have fallen from heaven, according to the book, right, the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So if a third of the angels had fallen, you're not going to be able to police an entire planet with 200 angels. If you're dealing with a third of the host of heaven, that's crazy. So, but this 200 could have each had a legion behind them. And you don't know who the names of all their soldiers. You just know the leaders. You know who the main people are. It's like a criminal syndicate. You're going to know who the capitanos are. You know, you're not going to know all the foot soldiers, but you're going to know who the bosses are, and you're going to know who the head guy is, and then his underboss, and blah blah blah. You're going to know those are the names that are going to be bandied about. I think that's what happened with the fallen angels. And then when you read about Thor, and you read the Icelandic sagas, and then you go and you start reading about all each country, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Sweden, and Iceland, they all have their own beliefs, but they're all tell a different story, but they're the same. If that makes any sense. Thor was the ogre killer. He was an ogre killer. And these ogres, the descriptions of these ogres went from some sort of malformed giant-looking creature, Nephilim, or a Bigfoot-looking creature. They were covered in hair that looked like some sort of furry beast. And Thor, basically, he was the ogre killer, and they also called him Defender of Mankind. And then, of course, he was killed by Jormungandr, the world serpent, that eventually. He caused a giant flood and killed a bunch of people during the battle, which kind of corresponds with the serpent, the old serpent, the devil, Satan, whatever. And Thor, of course, he fights him, and he wins, but he's wounded mortally and he dies. But it wasn't in vain, because at the end, even though Fenrir ate the sun and the whatever and everything was black, there was blood that dropped out of the gods, one of the gods. I don't know if it was Odin or Thor, I can't remember. It depends on the story too. A tree sprouts up, and then that's the end. So the end is actually a new beginning. But there's an Algonquin legend that follows that almost to a T, and they even have Freya, but she's called something else. I can't remember I can't pronounce it the way they pronounce it. But there's the Huntress. She's there. You have all these different legends and stories. There is a sort of a Thor type character. He dies, but I believe it all took place in a spiritual way, and I think it happened at the end of the Dwapara, what we would call the Dwapara Yuga in Hinduism, because at that time during the Dwapara Yuga, men lived to be 1,000 years. Now in the Bible, Methuselah, he was almost 1,000 years old. He was Noah's grandfather. So when you start putting all this together, you start seeing like this connection between all of these different stories and legends, and you're going like, dude, this is wild. This is almost like the same thing being retold over and over again. The Epic of Gilgamesh is big time, yeah. And then we just call them.
And even religions too. There's a lot of similarities with sun gods and this. I mean, everything kind of has just that coincides together, and it makes you wonder, what was made up or what's really being, told, what really, which one is real. I mean, how do you depict what is what when you jump down that rabbit hole? It's very just mind-boggling, because I've delved into that myself too, and it blows your mind away how everything kind of connects together, very much similarities with so many different types, and it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and it just keeps going on and on and on. You know what, though, Tom? We're going to continue this on your show. I'll come on your show, and I'll bring, some information, and we'll go into all this stuff.
Yeah, let me know what Monday you want to do it, and I will schedule you for that Monday, and I'll send you an invite through StreamYard on the NCCPP. I'll be glad to have you on.
Sure.
It'll be an honor.
Let me look at the calendar and see what we can do. what we got here, maybe the 24th.
Okay, that's fine by me. Like I said, it's getting late anyway. It's getting close to my bedtime because I'm an old fart and I got to be up at 5 in the morning. So,
Well, you
it's
look
11.
good for an
It's
old fart. You don't look
11:22.
like you're past, 102. I'm
Well,
joking. Man.
I take care of myself. I work out 3 days a week. I got a home gym. COVID happened. I quit my gym membership and I bought a home gym and I stick with it. And I just take care. I don't want to be that guy with the dad bod. I want to be the guy that's kind of just I want to be as good as Nick Valente. Or
Nick
Barton. I want to be as cut up as Barton Nunnally.
Barton and Nick are like anomalies, dude. But they're like in their 50s and they look like they're in their bodies. Like I saw them at the conference, and you get up next to these guys and they're solid, dude. Like I feel like I'm a pretty solid guy, but they're solid, for their age. You're just like, damn, dude. And they take care of themselves, man. You know what I mean? Even though Barton drinks like a case of Coke a day.
Not Shasta, right? It's got to be Coke, not Shasta.
Well, it's not Shasta, yeah. But and they're probably listening in the chat, whatever. But all right, man. So I'm gonna let you run, brother. It was good talking to you.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on the PRT, and hey, God bless you, Josh. I hope you feel better. I know you were feeling kind of awkward in the beginning when you started your live stream. So God bless you. I hope you feel better and you get through the night.
Show must go on, dude. That's how it goes.
Yes, sir. Well, have a good night, and thanks for having me on. And everybody in the chat, y'all have a good night too.
Yeah, and folks, look for me on the 24th on Tom's show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Josh. Have a good night.
Yeah, I'll see you.
Okay, bye.
So, folks, that was Tom Cardos. Take the headphones off. Those things really bother me. Really get to me. Let's talk a minute here. I'm going to give you a story. Since I am not supposed to talk too much, I have to tell the story. There was a man in a canoe. He said, "Nanu, nanu." No, I'm just kidding. We're not gonna go there. We're not gonna do the robot voice today. We're actually gonna just talk, right? So I was doing some research. This is weird. This is just kind of off out. This is a Bigfoot type thing, whatever. But you tell me what you think this is. When I was doing this research in between an area known as Giddings, Texas, and then it was in that area going toward Brenham. When you look at a map, you'll see what it is. Anyway, there was somebody who was living out there in that area, but like close to Washington on the Brazos. I don't know if you look it up, you can tell me what you know. But they were telling me that they saw this Bigfoot type creature who had horns. Well, they thought it was it had horns, but it turned out they really didn't have horns. They said it was wearing like with like a sort of like a strap. Like the way they described it was like it was intelligent. It wasn't no big ape creature, which is another reason why I don't think these are apes at all. But it had a ram's skull over the top of its head with the horns, and it had they could see it. It was like there was like a strap. So, you're sitting there going like, what is that? Like, that's not, I don't know. I just, that's not a sheep squatch. That's not a goat man. That's some sort of Bigfoot with a ram's head on it. That's what it is. That's exactly what that is. I mean, it was like, he goes, dude, I always thought it was like some kind of goat-headed look, but it was just a skull, Then he goes, and I got a good look at it one day, and it was like, and it was weird. It was like it went behind a tree, and it didn't come back out. Well, this guy didn't run out there and go, look, where are you at behind the tree? He was terrified. He lived on like 200 and something acres, whatever, but he was scared to death to go out there at night because this thing was running around out there. But it would sometimes have the horn on and the horns on its head. Sometimes it wouldn't. So, I mean, how do you, like, what the heck is that? And thank you, North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project. Thank you, Tom, for, appreciate that. Thank you for the donation. bottom line is, these creatures are super hyper intelligent. There's no ape out there running around that has that kind of intelligence that's going to wear a thing like that. And this guy he didn't really see it do anything magical other than that time went behind the tree. Now his neighbor did, and all this was going on, but it was mostly going on in the 80s and 90s. Up until up until the early 2000s, it was happening. And one of the guys who I just talked to his son, because his dad passed away back in 2017. So there's no way to talk to him about this. But a lot of the research I've been doing, and I went out there once and sat there and talked to them, and they have a nice place. It's beautiful, It's not scary, like too scary during the day. And if you go to, now, Brenda can tell you, but she was on the show. She was under Brenda Tice. His last name's different now. But she Brenda Armstrong. If you're listening, you probably listen to my show. But she had a lot of Dogman encounters to talk about, and it's sort of in that area, but kind of on the other side. But but they it wasn't a Bigfoot wearing a horns. So I talked to this guy the other day, and he was like, "This is absolutely, it was a strap holding that thing on its head." And I'm like, "Are you positive?" He said, "I'm absolutely positive." Because I was 15 yards away from it. So it brings you, I don't know what it is, and it makes me kind of step back and think that there is no way in heck that these people with their baloney with critical thinking, you stupid MFers, you're so stupid. You're the stupidest people on the planet. Okay, all of you, you're stupid. You're the stupidest people on the freaking planet. And as far as I know, they haven't attacked me. I think they said something about the Dogman conference. I don't know. These people, one of these days I'm gonna buy their houses, and make them pay me rent. I don't know what I'm gonna do. We'll figure it out. I'm just so sick and tired of these smarmy little know-it-all, smart mouth little turds, and they ain't got the brains to fill a thimble. Thank you, Liberty, for that. It says, always learn so much here. My favorite show of the week. Thank you so much for that donation. Keeps the show going. That's what we, but War Criminal says, I need one of those helmets. Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. The Bigfoot doesn't need it. Just get rid of him and take it. Oh, wait, don't do that. It's an endangered specimen. No, it's not. Prove it. Find me a specimen. Okay? And I had one guy tell me, another genius in that stupid category of stupid people, tell me that well, the reason we can't find a specimen is because as soon as one of them dies, the government comes and takes it, this and that, blah, blah, blah. This same self-person had the audacity to tell me that I was a conspiracy theorist because I believed that the government was involved in a lot of, and I'm like, dude, 3 months before you were telling me something completely different. So obviously that person quit liking me because I called them out on their BS. See, once you call people out on their BS, then they don't like you anymore. You're no longer their friend. You're not with the cool kids club anymore. Which I don't give a shit about your cool club. I'd never give a freaking crap. I don't care to be liked. I don't give a crap. I'm gonna tell it like it is, because my eternal soul is more important to me than your BS ideas. I do give some crap. I do. Your opinion is worth as much to me as gerbil shit. There you go. A big bucket of it. I'll trade you that for your opinion. I'll even throw in some cat turds from my litter box for it too. Like that's an even trade. I don't understand these people. I don't give a crap to understand these people. I'm not going to try to understand these people. They can say and do whatever the heck they want, and everybody else is just wrong. I just think that one of the things we're going to have to figure out as time goes on is that we're going to have to figure out, each and every one of us, where we stand. If we're going to keep on believing that these things are cryptids, which they're not. I mean, I can just tell you that point blank right now. Or are we going to believe that, you know, there's something more going on here? I could sit up here all night long and talk about give you guest after guest after guest, tell story after story after story, and I could plead with you. I could absolutely plead with you to come to your senses and start thinking about how ridiculous this all sounds. But I mean, there's nothing I can do. I can't make you. Why is it that when you interview somebody, like we didn't get into it with Tom, but I'm going to ask him when I go on the show at the end of the month, why is it that there's a haunted house involved? It sounds like so cliche, a haunted house. A house that has stuff going on in it. And then people are seeing Bigfoot. What are the odds of that? And what are the odds that it happens over and over and over and over and over again? And we're still supposed to sit here. And what these people are doing is asking you to suspend reality and think that every single one of these people is lying and that they're wrong and that they're crazy. I refuse to do that. I'm not going to call all of my... This one guy, he got a week ago, he insulted the crap out of me, dude. I mean, I'm very pissed off at this individual. I mean, he insulted me and my beliefs. Makes a joke out of it. And I'm like, it's no joke to me, dude. I'm not laughing. You insulted me. And then you just act like nothing happened. That's not the way it is for me. I'm not going to be insulted and be mocked because I know the nature of our reality. And I'm sorry that you don't, but you will. You will. And there's nothing that anybody's going to be able to do to help you when that happens. I feel bad for you. But I was trying to have a friendly conversation with this person, which obviously is not in the cards. And this person began to be insulted. And right now I'm not going to reveal their name, maybe later on, because I don't feel like being embroiled in another conflict. But this is the kind of stuff that I go through. I'm giving you, the audience, because a lot of these podcasters, they won't tell you what's going on. They're like, I'm going to tell you. And so I wanted to work with this person, but obviously it's not in the cards. It's just not somebody that I'm going to want to work with because this person's insulting to me. So what they did was they told me that all this work that I've done over the last few years is wrong. That all these things are flesh and blood, and that science can explain everything, and blah, blah, blah. And they want to tell me that my belief in this is just ridiculous. And they began to throw all this crap out there. And I'm just like, dude, I am not going to sit back and be insulted and be talked to like I'm a dumbass child, because I'm not. I'm a grown man. And I am willing to throw it all away. I was going to throw away thousands of dollars a month from this job to tell the truth about somebody who is doing something wrong. I try to have integrity. It's hard. Sometimes people don't, but if you don't have that, you don't have your word, what do you have in this world? And I told this person, I was brutally honest with this person, it was about my job. I said, this guy you're dealing with is a liar and he's a thief. Now, you like him, but he's not a good person. And I had to let the chips fall where they may. That is how you should live your life. And even if it means that you're broke, you accept that, because this is an earthly thing that is temporary. Your eternity is what should matter. Right? Shouldn't that be what matters? But these people, they don't believe in that. So it gives them carte blanche to act like buttholes, because why not? There's no punishment. There's nothing. It's just, you're just there. And so, this person began to try to, they're very stubborn people, and he tried to be insulting to me and my beliefs. And people who have beliefs. One of the things that really bothers me about this was that you're trying to tell me that all of the people who I've interviewed who had these encounters were wrong. That every one of them is a liar. Every damn one of them is not telling the truth, because that their belief doesn't fit your narrative that you have cultivated with your little friends. But it's hard to take. I'm sitting there going like, wow. So basically they're all liars. Everybody who's told me a story. And then they say, oh, well, they're giving you that story because your show is about the paranormal. WTF? I was getting stories about Bigfoot and Dogman decades before I started this show. And if you just go into it and look for the stories about Bigfoot, people will tell you the story about Bigfoot. But you're not doing that. You're not looking for the whole piece of the pie, the whole enchilada. You're just going, hey, let's leave all this stuff out about haunted houses. Let's leave all this stuff out about UFOs. I don't want to hear anything about ghosts. Let's just talk about Bigfoot. And then they give you the Bigfoot story and you write it in a book. Go F yourself, dude. Okay? Because that's not how you're supposed to do things. Now, you're writing the book about Bigfoot. Or you're writing a book about Dogman. Or you're writing a book about UFOs. But that's BS, because you're completely ignoring everything else about this subject. So there's no connection? I don't know this guy that well. And so it was just like, we had a talk and I was just like, not interested in working with this dude. There are people who have differing opinions and views of mine, and we can talk and be like, you know what? We agree to disagree. We're friends. We do whatever. You believe how you believe. I believe how I believe. And then we move on. But what I won't do is ever have a conversation with that person again. And I'm doing him a courtesy by not throwing his name out there. He even said in the conversation, you could say my name and do whatever you want. And I was like, I don't want to give you the press, dude. I could slap you next time I see you. might go to jail. Who knows? But the bottom line is, you know, the guy insulted me, and I was just like, I'm done with this person. I'm not going to talk to this person anymore. And it was the second conversation I've ever had with a guy. It's not an important person in my life. You know, he's like, well, a lot of your friends believe just like I do. I was like, yeah, but my friends aren't obnoxious about it. They don't sit there and tell me that every single person I've ever interviewed is a liar. Even go so far as to ask me to give them some couple of witnesses, and when I gave them a couple people, when I thought this person, you know, I said, hey, can they reach out to you? And then he insulted them. You little man. Two kinds of people in this world, weasels and weasel slappers. I'm a weasel slapper. Welcome to October, folks. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to tell you a story. And this is a pretty creepy one. I got a ghost story for you. Do what? Oh, Armando? Where is it? Armando Salazar. Oh, man. Good evening, brother. Just dropping in as I tune in to old podcasts from when my father was on with you. Thank you for what you do. Seriously, my father was passionate about the paranormal and such. Yes, he was. In fact, he was one of the people that encouraged me to get on here and do this.
I mean, the first time I met him, we had I don't know how, it felt like a 12-hour talk, but it just...
I was hurt when he left. And he gave me a bunch of different reasons, which I never could completely. And then finally he told me, hey, I just didn't want to deal with all the haters. That was one of the problems he had.
I mean, that's why he was a very private person online in general.
And then he started getting attacked. And of course, he also deviated from the people attacked him because he thought that Dogman and Bigfoot could be more than, you know, after we started getting all these stories, and you were part of that, we started going down the rabbit hole. But what I'm tired of is people insulting guys like us who are trying to get both sides of the story. We're trying to get both sides of the story now. I just think there's one side, my side. I don't care about your side anymore. I've given you all I'm going to give you. And now you can step out of my way while we go find the truth with our flashlights. So get the F out of the way. Because you're not making any progress out there fumbling around in the woods and not finding a damn thing. Getting bit by ticks or some crap. Stupid ass. Anyways, we're going to kick off October. I'm going to tell you a ghost story, dude. This is pretty crazy, right? And this woman, okay, I'm going to tell you right now. She lived in Houston, and she had a son who passed away tragically in a car wreck. A couple days later, she was visited by her son. Whenever this person would appear, she would smell this. This sounds kind of funny. She would smell marijuana, like the smell of it, the killer. You know, it would permeate her, whatever. And she said her son was, he was involved in some bad thing. He was a gang member, okay? And they lived in a bad area of Houston. I know exactly where it's at. I almost got killed in that area one time because I was out looking for somebody, and I ended up going into somebody's little territory. And, well, you know, I'm not from there. I'm from Austin or Central Texas. I'm not from East Texas. And I went there. When you go to other people's cities, you got to be careful. But anyway, all's well that ends well. Everything was great. They didn't kill me, thank goodness. Still here to talk. Maybe in an alternate reality, I'm dead. But anyway, this woman's son, she could smell it. She could smell like pot on him when this person would appear. The thing that she noticed, though, about her son, he looked different. He looked so perfect, like he unblemished, you know, almost like somebody airbrushed him. And he had these really, really light brown eyes. But when she would see him in this afterlife, which she began to see him pretty regularly after the first encounter, he had green eyes. And she's still seeing him. That's what. So she asked me the question. She says, Mr. Wolf, she calls me Mr. Wolf. She says, Mr. Wolf, this man that I'm seeing, I don't think it's my son. And I'm like, I know it's not your son. Because these entities can mimic anybody, but they can't do it perfectly, because only God can make a perfect image of us. And she said, yeah, he had green eyes. I said, what color were his eyes in life? She said they were very light brown. He was a very sweet boy, blah, blah, blah. But he had his demons. He smoked a lot of pot. She didn't think he did any other drugs, but he drank, he smoked, partied. So one of the things that I told her, I said, if this guy, you know, it says in the Bible we're supposed to test the spirits, you know. I said, just cry out to Christ when you see this man, this thing. She did, and her son got very angry. I said, that's not your son. In life, her son would sit there and listen to her proselytize, you know, preach. And now he's mad because you're talking about God and Christ. Reading from the New Testament made him upset. Stuff fell off the shelf, blah, blah, blah. One of the things she found out was that her son's friend had put a curse on him. He's El Salvadorian. And her family's Mexican, but the guy that his friend was an El Salvadorian guy, and he went to someone, and it was like they put a curse on him. He found from the girlfriend. She said that there was a Santa Muerta. It's the saint of death. It doesn't truly exist except for people who made it that way. And this guy had once been a part of this whole thing. Said, okay, I pledge my allegiance or whatever to that. He's like okay with that, right? And his friend said, yeah, and it'll protect our drug operations and blah, blah, blah. This is what she found out. Then he decided to start listening to his mother and turn back to God. They started going to church together. He started talking to a priest. He wanted to be baptized. He wanted all these things to happen. And this demon was like, nope. And actually, I disagree with that. Somebody says Josh needs to lose the joy. This is gold, and it actually is a purification metal. But anyway, this person, you know, it was really sad because then she came to the conclusion that her son was killed, like there wasn't an accident. It was a setup. They couldn't prove it. Bad things happen when you're in that life. And this thing was there to torture her, torment her. So, still going through it, just struggle. Prayer, the fasting, everything you have to do to overcome something like this. You cannot try to fight this on your own. This is something you have to have God for you. There's no way that any one of us can fight a demon without the help of God. Banjo, what are you doing? Yeah. Chris Phoenix says it's not gold, not really. Okay. Yeah, it is. You're wearing an alloy. Well, 14 karat. Okay, it's not important. But anyway,
I mean,
it's more gold than it's not.
question is, do you believe that someone can put a curse on someone else, the unknown aspect? That's a yes.
Yeah, you can. But it's more like I think that the curse was easily put on him because he had pledged himself.
Yeah.
So when he decided to turn away, and he wasn't spiritually strong enough, he had not put on the full armor of God, so to speak. He was vulnerable, and I think that's how it ended up happening.
Do you think it's possible to...
You should never donate yourself to evil.
Yeah. Evil corrupts entirely, so there's like how, but I was going to ask, do you think that a person that's not very spiritual, doesn't really have like an affinity for it, do you think they can produce a curse on someone else unknowingly with enough hatred or enough anger?
I do. I believe that people can will things onto people. Yeah, everybody keeps talking about the gold thing. Okay, let me just explain to you how gold works, okay? .24 karat is pure. Okay, I know because I buy copious amounts of gold, right? And sometimes I'll turn it into jewelry. Some of this stuff is actually from bullion. Some of it's from gold that I actually harvested working in the nightclubs. A fist fight turned into a mugging because you know what? Spoils of war. There was a different time, and that's how I looked at things. I don't do that anymore. I'm not that kind of man. But if you had a grill and you went in and you ran your mouth and you slapped my bartender unconscious, well, guess what? Your grill's going to be mine. Take it and turn it into something nice. But the bottom line is 24 karat is pure. And you have 18, which is close. And you have 14, and you have 10, and sometimes even 8. But 10 is harder. 10 is the most practical to wear if you're going to be wearing it quite often and moving around because it's not as easy to break. It's harder, and it's got less gold, but it's also more durable, and it's really pretty. Same thing, but the more yellow it is, like I have a bracelet that I got made. It was made based on a stainless steel bracelet, but it's actually a gold bracelet. It's got 2 wolf's heads. It's in the repair shop right now. But it's got more gold, so it's more yellow. But I don't like it. I don't like that more yellow gold. I like it to be a less gold looking. You know what I mean? I like it 10 to 14.
They mix it with silver, right?
18? No, it depends. No. There's silver that's coated with gold. You don't want that. But the thing is, you're gonna want to have it to where it's durable. Because otherwise it is bend. It will bend. It will break. You can, and some of it's pretty soft. Like
D said, the purer the softer.
Yeah, the more pure the softer. Like this, I could bend that. Like see this? Watch. Let me see if I can see it on camera. You see me bending it? Because it's got more gold in it. What is that?
Another ring.
Oh, there's another one. Yeah, I left it here. It says wolf on there. You see it? You see it? Do you see it? Do you see it? What is this?
One you just got me.
This is tungsten, isn't it?
I think this is tungsten. I don't know.
No, this is tungsten too. I can feel it. It's You don't have to whisper. You can. Yeah, sure. Just leave it here. I just left it in there because I wanted it to be by the candles and all that because like I said, gold is a purification metal. So is silver. Silver is just cheaper, and silver, there is no alloy that you mix with silver. When you wear silver, it's just pure silver because it's only $20 an ounce, 25 at the most. But anyway, when you get these stories of Dogman and Bigfoot and all these other creatures, ghosts, goblins, demons, whatever you want to call them, you know, there's so many different avenues. One of the things that when I was looking into the whole Jeffrey Dahmer thing, talking about that, one of his victims had claimed that he saw this guy literally become bigger and his face changed. And now there's something weird going on with that too, because I remember like Jeffrey Dahmer's story, like he had given his neighbor meatloaf. I'm not talking about the show. The show was highly inaccurate. First of all, he wasn't German either. They're like, oh, back to the old country. Like they're trying to say he's German, evil German guy, whatever. Shut up. His dad's family was Scandinavian. I think his dad was actually half Jewish, half Scandinavian, something like that. I don't know. Whatever, whatever, but they weren't German. But they just love them to be, the bad guys. Them and the Arabs are always the bad guys.
Japanese.
Not so much now that they're
In a lot of Asian films I watch.
Well, because you're right about that. When it comes to the Asian films, that's different. But this person's heritage notwithstanding, people were asking me left and right, and they have been lately because of my understanding of things and beliefs and whatever. They want my opinion. They said, "Do you think that he might be in heaven?" I was like, him accepting Christ. I have no idea. If he is one of those people that I talk about that is born beyond redemption and he cannot truly be sorry, then he doesn't have a prayer in hell. There's no way he's going to go to heaven. He can get saved and baptized all day long. If he's not truly sorry and he's not truly repentant, because he can't be, because of his, whatever, then no way. Not going to happen. But if he did fall on his knees and he was truly sorry and he did repent, now that doesn't mean you escape judgment. I believe you still face your karma. But I think it gives him a better position going forward. Consider this. Tracy Edwards, one of the people that he tried to kill, who escaped him. This was would have been what was going to be one of his victims. It would have been it was the last guy he tried to kill. He escaped. That guy killed a man 20 years almost I think it was to the day or almost to the day, if I read that correctly. He killed a guy. He murdered a dude. So he escaped Dahmer only to go off and murder a guy 20 years later. Think about that. Some of the time when you hear about people killing someone, you're like, oh, that person's terrible. That guy's a murderer. That's bad. And they're wrong. And they have no right to take that person's life. And I have no sympathy for this guy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not even really playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying that this guy, his eternal soul. This is the time of the Kali Yuga. And if you fall on your knees and you cry out, according to the Hindus, you're good. You can get out of here. You punch your ticket. Islam says if you ask Allah, whatever. Christianity says if you ask Christ. Although the Muslims, it's kind of weird. They actually believe that Christ is going to return. It's not Muhammad. But that's your ticket out of here. So just dying is a threshold to another life. So if you're murdered, it sucks. But I mean, if you are going to another life, it's not like, oh, I've been murdered, and you know, I didn't deserve this, because if you didn't deserve it, you wouldn't have been murdered. Does that make sense? I'm not saying that Dahmer's victims did something to deserve to be murdered in this life. What I'm talking about is when you look at it from the big picture standpoint. In a past life, you kill someone. This is why I believe in this. Okay? You come back, you get killed.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it's Buddhism 101, but I'm not a Buddhist per se, but I do adhere to that. And I do believe that. You can get off the wheel of Dharma, though. There's an easy way. Just go what you have to do, which is accept Christ. And people say, "Oh, Josh Turner's a bigot for saying that." I'm telling you the truth. I'm giving you my truth of what I believe and what I know to be true. Overbuilt Automotive says, "What if Dahmer was possessed and/or MK Ultra?" Think about this. Why are there so many shootings now when there weren't 4 years ago? Why now with the new president, all these shootings? Is that a coincidence? Diablo says, "There's always a question of doubt." Freaking Gacy. John Wayne Gacy, I guarantee you he's burning in hell. If he's not burning in hell, then it's a free-for-all. Gacy was unrepentant and even denied doing things. He was just sick, stupid, evil, fat man, clown. The odd thing about him, though, when you look at him as opposed to, I'm going to do a show maybe about this stuff here, but Ted Bundy, diehard Republican, John Wayne Gacy, diehard Democrat. I saw some dumb lady the other day, "Ted Bundy was a Republican," and I drove up next to her and I was like, "John Wayne Gacy was a Democrat. What's your point? What does it matter?" Samuel Little was black and he killed over 100 people. His body count was higher than the body count we know of from Dahmer, Gacy, and Bundy all put together. But you know, if you look at some of these people, like Dennis Nielsen, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Herb Baumeister, who killed at least 50 people. I mean, they all got higher body counts than Dahmer. What Dahmer did, though, was just gross, because he would eat people and keep the bodies and stuff with him. So everybody was like, "Oh, that guy's horrible. He did all these bad things." I mean, he did a lot of bad things, but when you look at Bundy, when you look at Gacy, when you look at Samuel Little, when you look at all these other guys, they all killed more than he did. Look up Richard Ramirez. He was horrible too. He was a nasty, gross dude. And Rosendo Ramirez. I don't know what it is about that Ramirez last name. And then when you read about, what's his face? Arthur Shawcross. He was another horrible person. Chikatilo. He killed over 100 people in Russia. I mean, there's a whole way. Albert Fish, you know, Ed Gein. I mean, these people were twisted. They were sick.
I was gonna say, these are the ones we can name in history. I mean, like in
that
our
we know
history,
of.
that we know of. Like the body counts of people back then would be unimaginable.
Look at Elizabeth Bathory.
Yeah.
The most prolific serial killer in all of history, killed 660 people. It was a female. Her name was Elizabeth Bathory.
You know what's funny? I think we did a show.
She's Hungarian.
Yeah, I think we did some research about stuff like that.
She was Count Dracula's cousin, which is interesting. You know, and you can talk. I can talk all day about these people. You know, Jack the Ripper. We pretty much know who Jack the Ripper was. They just don't want to. They don't want to say it for whatever reason. But Diablo, you can put it on there. Put on there who Jack the Ripper was. I think you know him.
I mean, they're all gonna find out that you can't really escape your karma. There's nothing you can really do to escape your karma, but you can at least lessen it, or you know, control it in a way to where it's not as bad for you. I mean, there's things you can do to help yourself, and that's why I just think it's silly when people don't. You know, they willingly don't. That's the main thing that I find just that baffles me, is willful ignorance or willful doubt. for no real reason other than to just doubt.
So Aaron Kosminski was, he said Kaninsky, was Kosminski, whatever. But that's another, he was a kosher butcher. But now they say he was a hairdresser, and I'm like, what? This is like another Mandela effect, like the Lindbergh baby. Now we know he was taken, he was killed, whatever. Before he was never found. Now you get all these weird Mandela effects. Dahmer didn't give his neighbor meatloaf; he gave him a sandwich. That's not what I remember. I read and researched all this. But like it says in the Bible, I mean, if it were possible, even the elect would be fooled. All this stuff is not fooling me. It's not fooling a lot of you. Because you're smarter than that. Dumpster Diving says The Iceman. Oh, God, he was horrible, too.
Yeah. Actually, that was one of the first books you gave me.
That was Kalinsky, wasn't it? Yeah.
I used to read, he would just go and murder random homeless people. And
Yeah, he shot one guy with a crossbow just to do it. It's like,
you just did it just to do it.
I can't even imagine, like being, because these people, like, I think they're just born beyond redemption. But I it's a conundrum for me when it comes to Dahmer, because we don't know if he was truly repentant. The preacher or priest that dealt with him, the chaplain, really believed that he was repentant and he was sorry, and that when he was killed, what's the maniac's name that killed him? Christopher, some crap. He's made up 1,000 reasons why he did it. He just did it because he was a turd, but he killed him, and he killed that other guy too, and that was racially motivated. I mean, because he said that he killed black people. That was his first reasoning, and then he said, "Oh well, it wasn't because of that. It was because he would play with his food and make it look like body parts or something." So he made some other crap up recently. He made all these excuses or whatever. He just wanted to kill somebody and look tough. Pretty sure Dahmer was a sitting duck in there. He was a wimp. So anyway, one of the things that I know about him, yeah, somebody says, what about Stalin? Stalin has actually got the biggest body count in the history of the world, followed by Mao Zedong. They're both communists. Go figure. But all we got to hear about are other people. But if you look at it's interesting, because if you look at the guy that killed Dahmer, he was pretending, like some of his fellow inmates said that he was faking it. That he was pretending to hear voices and acting all whatever, and that he had wanted to kill Dahmer from jump, and so he could be the one to kill him again, because somebody was going to do it, because they put him in general population. The sad thing, though, for me about him, besides all the poor people that he killed, the victims and all that, and their families, which was terrible, but the tragedy on top of the big tragedy, the smaller tragedy, I guess, is that he was honest about it. He told us, hey, I killed these people, I ate them, I did all this stuff. I mean, he didn't have to talk about the eating part. He didn't have to admit to any of that. The two Stevens that he killed, the first two people he killed, supposedly were the first two. They didn't even know about that. He copped to those. He just said he did it. I mean, he didn't,
I mean, especially when you look at like Fox Hollow Farm, where they're still finding bones that they don't even know.
Yeah.
It's just...
Well, Fox Hollow Farm is Herb Baumeister, which he hardly gets any press at all. I have my own theories about why that is, but I'm not going to get into it. But Baumeister killed at least 50 people, because that's how many people the pieces that they found, different people. Yeah, Dick Richards says the communists have killed over 250 million. Yeah. Somebody said Hitler, his body count is like nothing compared to what the communists have done. If you took Mao and Stalin both of them doubled, just by themselves, doubled, Hitler's body count, whatever. And a lot of the camps were set up by the NKVD, the precursor to the KGB, before, when the Germans were making their push into the east. The death camps were already there. The Nazis just commandeered them and put people, they stuck them in there. And most of what they did, they worked people to death. That was kind of their thing. But the Spaniards and the Portuguese did the same thing. That's why there were so many more slaves being shipped to South America than there were up here in North America. And there are less black people in South America than there are in North America, because they had no mercy. They just worked them to death, and then they would bring more. Whereas up here in North America, the Anglos actually treated slaves better. I mean, it's not a good way to treat a slave. It's terrible. Slavery is slavery. But they treated them better than they were treated, in South America. I mean, it's just awful brutality all the way around. So he says Japanese might have been the most brutal of all. They're small potatoes, dude, compared to the communists. There's no comparison.
The thing is, Japanese aren't big enough. They couldn't muster the forces to do the same amount of damage that a country the size of China or Russia can do. So yeah, I mean, you really can't compare it.
It's on a scale that nobody can match.
I mean, just the size alone of that many people and just willingly ignoring him is just sickening to think about.
So we had a person to come on the show. I don't know if you can look it up. It was on a show, and she did a paranormal investigator. She went to Fox Hollow Farm, where Baumeister had done his dirty deeds and killed all those men. And it's been, they've done a true crime documentary on it with Bill Curtis, and then they did one on Paranormal Witness. And it was pretty bad, things he did. And it was just like, it flew under the radar. Like, this guy was horrible. He killed all these men. And then, he was just evil. I mean, he was just beyond evil. And then he was such a coward that he just went to Canada and shot himself on a park bench rather than face, and of course, now we'll never know how many people he killed.
It's episode,
but there's a paranormal connection there.
29 and 28 and 29.
Episode 28 and 29. She talks about now. She's also gone to the John Wayne Gacy property, and we're hoping to get her on, and we're going to have her talk and tell her what she knows. But anyways, I could sit here and talk about any subject you want to throw out. The Genghis Khan.
What we're talking about today.
Genghis Khan actually killed a lot of people. And if you were to sit back and talk about Genghis Khan, over the decades after he was finally driven out and gone, whatever, he would have been looked at as worse than anything that the communists or Nazis could, because they called him the scourge of God. But, over time, it just becomes an interesting study into, whatever. But the problem is, if you're going to read about anybody or anything, start off just looking at it objectively and if you can do this, put your emotional investment aside and just look at it from the standpoint of just trying to get to the truth. And don't be biased. And I know that's hard when you're dealing with some of these people like Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, Stalin. It's almost impossible to sit here and talk about these people and not feel some sort of anger or whatever toward the many horrible, tragedies, things that they did. Like I get emotionally charged just talking about Castro. I can't stand that dude. The Cuban people have suffered. I have a lot of Cuban friends who just suffered, and we still don't know how many people they've killed over there and what they've done. Only those that get away can tell you. It's happening now in North Korea. What's his name? Kim Jong-un. We don't know until one day, maybe when those people are free, then they can talk about it. All we get are bits and pieces of it, and we don't really know what all they've done and how bad it is. I know the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia killed, I think, like almost half of the freaking population. It was unreal. It was either a third or half of the population, something like that. They killed literally wiped half the country out. I mean, it was just absolutely terrible. It was awful. But there's things that people do that set them apart, and Dahmer being, cannibalizing a couple of his victims, that definitely was, yeah. And so people have asked me, like, what do you think? Do you think he repented? If he found a way to truly, if God touched him in a way that he truly was repentant, then I think he could be forgiven. Because people that, well, he killed people. Well, those people are not dead. They're just not in their bodies anymore. And you got to look at it like from the standpoint of, okay, if you were this bad person and you did this, and one day you felt something and you began to feel remorse and sadness, then that is something that will, as God's Holy Spirit convicting you. But if you're one of those people that, like Gacy, who just said he didn't feel anything, never did, the last thing he said was kiss my ass. I mean, you punched your ticket to hell, my friend, and I'm glad, because I want you to go to hell. That's where you belong, dude. As weird as it may sound, I mean, he killed a lot more people than Dahmer, and I think Dahmer was pretty open and honest about what he did. He talked about it, and he didn't do it in a braggadocious way because he wanted everybody to know. He was just kind of like, I killed these people and I ate them, and I think it's a shame that he was murdered for one main reason. We could have learned a lot about these people from him, because he was very open and he was willing to talk about it. He should not have been in a prison. If there was one person that didn't belong in a freaking prison, it was him. He should have been in a mental institution, and he should have been studied. I thought it was pretty stupid that his mother wanted to actually give his brain to science after he was dead. Well, first of all, there was trauma. One of the things that killed him was what's his name? Christopher, what was his name?
I just looked it up. It's Sukazi or something like that. Scarver.
Christopher Scarver caused severe blunt force trauma to his brain, which killed. So his brain's going to be freaking messed up. So I don't know what her Looney Tune ass is doing. But here's another angle to it, though. She was a UFO person who thought she had been abducted. That's interesting. So when she left Dahmer as a kid, like a teenager, to live in the house by himself for a while, whatever, when he killed his first victim, she was big into aliens and all this stuff, and she thought that she'd been abducted. It was weird. It was crazy. But yeah, that's a little known fact. When you take deep dives and you go looking into this stuff, there is a guy that I'm going to try and get in touch with, or I have been trying to get in touch with him, and I'm going to try and get him to come on the show, because he's sort of a expert on Dahmer and his whatever. But when you look at things thank you, Carrie, for that donation. When you look at things from a purely pragmatic standpoint, and you throw emotion and morality out the window, which I don't like to do, but sometimes you have to kind of get to the bottom of things. You have to clear all your, if you can sit back and listen to somebody talk, and let them speak, get them have their piece, even though you're sitting there not liking them and not liking what they have to say. Actually, Barbara Bush was the daughter of Aleister Crowley. I'm convinced of that. But anyway, when you start listening to these people, you're not going to ever be able to get anywhere if you're invested emotionally in hating them. So you have to try to throw that out there and hear what they have to say, which I did with this other guy the other day. And after he was done talking, I can't stand this guy. And you may hate them, but I can't remember her name. She's married to the lead guitarist of Weezer. And she's the one that went and got Samuel Little to admit to more than the 30 people he originally admitted to. It was like 100. He was an African American guy. He killed 100 he admitted to over 100 women, and they confirmed like 70 something of them. And he just said that when he was a kid, he watched a snake strangle a woman, and it gave him the idea to do that. He liked the way it was. He didn't like, he hated women. He watched a snake strangle, and I was just thinking, man, this is crazy. I was watching that documentary. And you're just like, good God, dude, this guy was like, that's what gave him the idea. Like, but it was something deeper than that, but he liked the way that happened. So he did it. And then when you go back and you start looking at Dahmer's with his dad, and they were, cutting up roadkill and all this other stuff, it's just, I don't know. Finally, he found something he was interested in. Okay, let's go cut up bodies of dead animals. That's always healthy. But anyway, we could do a show if you guys want. Let me know. If you hit me up, if you want to do a show about serial killers, I can talk about that stuff. It's another subject. I know quite a bit about it. It's never been like a passion of mine to do any kind of true crime, but I can tell you a lot about it because I know. Because I've just read tons of things, and there's all kinds of stuff we could talk about. And there are paranormal aspects to it too. I remember reading something about Jeffrey Dahmer's neighbor once seeing what she thought was a ghost of a man standing in her kitchen. He looking all shocked and confused, and I think it was one of the people that Dahmer had killed. So I know, and I don't know where that's at. I've read it a long time ago, but there's all this stuff that's changed now. Like with it was no longer, she didn't eat meatloaf. It was a sandwich or something, which is crazy because I think that goes with the Mandela effect. A lot of things have changed. One of my best friends, I remember meeting him and his wife when I was 19, and they were like 22, they were 23. And now I was 20 and they were 25. And I was like, what? Because we went back and traced over the timeline. And it's like, that's crazy. That's not what I remember. That's not how they remember. So, I mean, you got this. There's a lot of weird stuff. I was talking to Jessica Jones, and me and my wife were talking about it to her last night. She's a remote viewer. Feels like a bunch of weird stuff has happened. So there's a lot coming down the pipe. Like I said, we're gonna talk. We're gonna do Halloween. It's gonna be different. It's gonna be live. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna have a bunch of people on next Tuesday. I'm gonna have Barton in the studio. He's coming, and Barton Nunley the great Barton Nunley will be in the studio with me, and we're gonna do the show together. But and I'm hoping that it's a good show and whatever. And I got a bunch of cool guests lined up. I got a whole page full of them here, and that are going to be lined up. We're putting our dry erase board up there so I can get all the stuff, keep them all together.
Nellie's been spending a lot of time decorating. It looks really good out there.
Yeah, because I was going to be interviewed by Small Town Monsters, but I guess something happened, or I don't know. Maybe that's an excuse. I don't know. Maybe I'm not palatable. I don't know. I don't give a crap. Anyways, bottom line, things happen for a reason, and I'll still be here.
I was gonna say, to speak about what you said earlier, was humanity was it's pretty much built on warfare, and unfortunately, history is written by the victors. So having a perspective that is anything other than bias means you're gonna be flip-flopping all over the place, because you're just gonna be going by whoever wins and whatever their beliefs are, and you're not gonna agree with their beliefs.
And it all goes back to what I say in the period that we're living in. We're living in the time of sorrows, the tribulation, the revelations. It's all coming to pass. Everything's happening. And you start to look at things, and you start to see that, it's this is the Kali Yuga, dude. We're in the time of the age of destruction. So, yeah, of course, everything's built around warfare and death and darkness and just destruction. People are just not good. You're not dealing with the best of the best right now, because all the best of the best have already transcended. If you're here, this lady one time, she said, I'm not going to go through this. She's like, I'm going to be raptured. I was like, no, you're not. It's not how, there is nothing scriptural that supports that. And I told her, I said, you're not going to be, you're going to go, if you're still here, you'll go through the tribulation like the rest of us. She's like, well, why would God allow that to happen? I was like, because of your karma. Very simple. You're here for a reason. You're stuck here doing this and going through this for a reason.
If you look at
or you wouldn't be here.
look at Earth like the siphoner, whatever, you're just slowly graining out the ones.
Well, it says in the Bible, and you can look this up. It says in the Bible, God says He is a silversmith, that He is smithing us and He's purifying us. I can't remember what passage it is, but you can look it up. I'm like half asleep here. But it says, so basically, He's trying to get, He's separating the wheat from the chaff. So what's going on right now is the purification. And those who are coming back, you may be coming back to teach. You may be coming back to witness, whatever. Or you may be coming back to be converted to change.
Proverb 25:4. Remove the dross from the silver, and a silversmith can produce a vessel. Or either the better way to say it is, remove the impurities from silver, and the sterling will be ready for the silversmith.
I think there's another passage there where it says God, where He says that He is a silversmith, that He's smithing us. I can't remember the way it's written.
Michelai 3:3. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the levities and refine them like gold and silver. Then the Lord will have men who will bring offerings in righteousness.
You see it? This is what I'm talking about here. It says, He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver. Then the Lord will have men who will bring offerings in righteousness. So He's saying basically that He's a silversmith, that He's cleansing us like gold and silver. He's purifying us. And that those who will be time to go, and then those who are just not ever going to change, and they're going to keep being stubborn, and they're going to be stuck here as this slowly becomes hell on earth. The worst thing you can do is keep coming back in the Kali Yuga, folks. And then eventually you go to a hell realm, which is even worse, and then that's it. People say the idea of a fiery judgment is a Christian myth. And I laughed in someone's face the other day, and I was like, really? Because that's not even Christian. It's Zoroastrian. Look up Zoroastrianism. Look up who was the main guy in Zoroastrian? Who was the bad guy? And I'll explain this to you.
Feels weird calling it main villain.
The main villain, whatever.
I mean, I don't know how to actually word it.
Just all you got to do is type in who is God in the Zoroastrian belief, the name.
Or you want the God, not the...
Well, yeah, that's because there was the main God, and then there was the opposite. Asura Mazda, I believe, was his.
Yeah, Azura's Mazda. And then, trying to find the opposite there.
Anyways,
There's like 12 different gods. I can't figure out which one's opposite.
there's not 12 different. Anyways, the belief of Zoroastrianism Ahura Mazda is the main god of Zoroastrianism.
Lord of Wisdom.
Yeah. But anyway, what happens in Zoroastrianism is that if you balance, if you were balanced, you can walk across this like tightrope type thing. I don't know what you want to call it. And if you were bad, well, you fell into this pit of fire, and then you stayed in there until you were purified.
Here it is. That blue. That's
Angramanu. That's his name. Angramanu. I could always forget. I knew it was. I didn't want to say it because it's right. Because I didn't. It's Angramanu.
Yeah, this is confusing because it says technically Azor Mazda has no equal consisting force, but
It's his shadow. It's his shadow.
born from
Yeah.
evil thoughts.
Yeah, it's born of evil thoughts, and it's his shadow. It is like the opposite. It is basically humans create him as a tulpa to be the opposite of God. Which is very odd. It's very weird. I mean, you can get into this whole. We can go down a rabbit hole forever on this crap.
But he's not like, I guess it's Azor Mazda has no equal, I guess.
Yeah, he's not. He has no equal. He is the main god,
Yeah.
and fire is the purification. Now, the three wise men were Zoroastrians because they had studied the astrological calendar and they followed a star to find Christ, who was to be the king of the world. Think about that, folks. I'm going to beg you. I'm begging you. Read. I'm not joking. Me and Tony were having this conversation earlier. When I got the new merchandise. We ordered the new merchandise. Some of it came in. Some of it hasn't. But we got the new. In a couple weeks, we'll have the new hoodies out. We'll show you. And we're going to be doing those on giveaways and selling them and stuff. But we were talking about it today. We were over there getting all that done. Me and Tony running around getting stuff done. And I was with my other godson, Alec, and my nephew, Anthony. And we talked extensively about this. Read.
Anything to be
Okay, there are
honest.
5 things that you need to do that you could totally be control of your life, take advantage of it, and completely change you as a human being, as a person, and better yourself. Number 1 is you have to have a foundation which consists of love and forgiveness. And you have to believe in God. In my personal belief, Christ is where you have to find it, because it says he's the way out. You can be a great person, and I don't think you'll go to hell. I think you can if you're a bad person, but I think you can come back and do it again. I think that's what purgatory kind of is. You're kind of sitting, waiting before you can come back, or whether you're going to go to a hell realm or you're going to go to heaven. But I don't think any of it's actually permanent, because time, as we've created it, exists outside. It's not real. So there's no time. But you could end up in a hell where you have the mindset of a human time frame, which would be awful. It would be completely awful. But what I'm going to tell you is, number 1 is your spiritual base. Number 2 is your physical base, which is nutrition. Eating the right things and putting the right things into your body. And number 3, I say to add to that would be the kind of part of it, number 2, but actually a 3, is the supplement. We have the technology now to take all the vitamins and nutritions and supplements that you need to take it. Do it. And that's a bit. The 4th one would be exercise. Get exercise. And dude, I lost 130, 140 pounds. Didn't run. Didn't do a bunch of walking. I lifted weights and ate right. Lost 135 something, 137 pounds, something like that. You can do this. And here in the last, I've lost 22 pounds since the conference, and I've walked around, but I haven't run. I don't get on treadmills and do any of that. I just eat better and I work out and I take supplements. And I can tell you right now that if you do a lot of cardio, a little bit of cardio is good, but it's real easy to go into the catabolic, doing too much. And it releases free radicals in your body and it ages you. Okay? So it enlarges your heart and it ages you. The cardio, not real good. I'm telling you right now, it's the truth. I'm not joking. Okay? The one thing that you have to do beyond all that is to educate yourself. Self-education is the most important thing. And if you don't read, you're not self-educating. I have read and studied. Okay, let's take World War II, for example. I've read 34 books on the subject. Or 32 that I actually finished. That's what I count. I don't count books that I haven't finished. If I were to tell you how many books I've read, and Tony, you know how many books I had. I had a library of about 5,000 books. Am I lying?
No. I mean, I had to back it up, so no.
I had about 5,000 books. I've read solidly over 1,000. Okay. The others, I didn't complete them, but maybe read most of them. And I don't even count them because I didn't finish them.
Well, you used to have a clipboard with all the books you read, right?
Mm-hmm. But I quit. I lost count. So it was just too many to read. I have it in alphabetical order, and I did that so I go back with reference because I also had OCD. But I used to keep track of all that. And so historical books, right? But you got to read books from both sides. And sometimes you're reading something, you're going like, "This is I don't even want to read this. This person's just ugh. It's ugh, you know." But you're not going to learn anything if you don't read that. Some guy said the other day, he said that, "Oh, I like the way Wolf looks stuff up on Wikipedia and Google or something, you know, and pretends like he knows the answers to it." When this guy sitting right across from me can tell you, I never do that. I did it right now on the show. You know, I didn't pretend like I knew it, and I looked it up in front of you. This guy was trying to say like, you know, like I'm doing it during the show and hiding, pretending to know all these things. The human brain can only process so much information. He pretends like he's a walking encyclopedia.
You are a walking encyclopedia.
I've never said I was, but people have told me that.
Yeah, you're the only person that when I think of like a mind palace, I think of like you, like a mind locker where you just has files and you just store stuff on there. And I think what it is your reading comprehension. This is why I think reading is so important, is because it allowed you to understand and file and put things differently. And like when you're able to understand what you're reading, you're able to understand what you're seeing in the world too. And I think because of that, it's helped you a lot with your mental capacity, and like you know so much. And I think it's because you understand what you're reading and you're not just mindlessly like looking at words, which I think people think of what we're talking about. And it's like, that's why I say read anything, because it becomes important later on, because you'll figure out how to piece things together better in life when you're able to do it on page.
Yeah. And, you know, people will tell me, "Oh, that guy's a know-it-all. He's this, he's that. You know, he's got all these different subjects and he can tell you about, you know, but he thinks he knows everything." I don't think I know everything, but I've studied a lot. And since I was a child, my mother would drop me off at the library and leave me there for hours. The library was my babysitter. I had a friend of mine's mother like, "Oh, that's not correct. You shouldn't just drop your son off there at the library for 5 or 6 hours." And my mom was like, "Why? He likes it. That's what the librarians looked after me. Nobody came and tried to kidnap me. I would just wander through the libraries. Haskell, Rockdale, Taylor, places I grew up. But librarians knew me very well because I was always in there reading. And I would open up books and I would sit there and I would read, and then I would take 2 or 3 home and I would read them. Books were my life. Books were my escape. That's how I escaped dealing with my dad. In between, you know, the horror show that was my childhood and dealing with him, I read. I was an avid reader. Reading was my outlet. That was my escape from reality. I read about sharks. I read about freaking the sky. I read about, you know, the astronomy, faraway galaxies, planets, all kinds of things. You just read. I read about ancient rulers and civilizations that were long gone. That's how you get to where you need to be. And if you are a certain religion, I encourage you to go and read about other religions and make a comparison.
I say read about your own religion. Surprisingly, you have to tell people to do that, but you know, make sure to look into what you believe. You shouldn't just blindly follow something because someone tells you to do it. Make sure you understand what you're following, and make sure you follow what you respect and like what you really want or value in life, or you know, so you don't get blinded by someone with a nice voice and a pretty face, and it sounds like they're saying the right thing, but it's all gilded gold.
Somebody said Tartaria. Okay, the mud flood, dude, I am not sold on that. I don't think that a mud flood could have happened century before this past one, and it just covered up everything. That's a hard sell, bro. I mean, that's a hard one, dude. I mean, I can almost get behind a lot of other things. You know, I don't believe it personally. I mean, I don't think that there's just everybody just in history just agreed to pretend like, you know, and it was only like a couple, like 100, 200 years ago. I have a hard time with that one. I don't, the 1860s, he says, yeah. The Civil War was going on in the 1860s. My grandfather's grandfather, he remembers it, dude. My grandfather, who died back in the early 90s, his grandfather talked about it. I mean, mud flood was not happening. I mean, there were still people that were still around from the Civil War in the 1860s. So, how do you explain that? They had no memory of it, you know. But like I said, if it's something you believe in, that's fine. Whatever, as long as you don't insult me and what I know to be true, I don't really care. Do what you got to do, folks. I wasn't feeling good today. I did the best I could. Thank you for the donations, everybody. I appreciate it. I'm just not, and I still went 3.5 hours. Hopefully, I gave you some good information. It might not have all been story after story after story of paranormal whatever, and I might have been a little cranky and said a few cuss words a day. I'm just sorry. I'm just not doing really good. Thank you to my guest Tom Carlos for coming on. I apologize, Tom, if I was a little not rude, you know, completely to him, but just being rude in general. Just kind of not feeling it. You know, I had to do what I have to do, but anyway. Thank you for tuning in today, and I'll just try to do better next week, folks. I just, you know, I fell off and have been for a while. Pray for us that we can get into a house and get into one of these houses we're trying to do, so that I can do more research. If I had my office there at my house, I could pump out more shows. I could do more research. I could just do more. I could, because this house we're looking at, right? You haven't seen it yet, have you?
I haven't seen it.
Well, it has a study that I can sit in, and I can produce. It's got a huge bookshelves that are built into the wall behind me, and I can just.
I gotta say, a space for you where you don't have to drive, you know, 5 miles on the road.
It was just more than 5 miles, but I mean 10 miles. But still, it's not even probably in traffic, because you're trying to do it in traffic. It's horrible, and I don't even want to come sometimes. But yeah, I mean, it just pray for us, please. We can get this done, and then eventually get my house built so I can get, because that's going to have a really nice study, and I can just put everything into doing my work there, and maybe doing more work, doing more shows. I'd like to get it to where I do 2 or 3 times a week. I'm not kidding. I want to do one big live, and then I want to drop maybe 2 or 3 episodes a week of just regular, maybe doing some shorts, or maybe doing some animation stuff. I got a guy who's an animator.
Me and Alec been talking about some really cool
Alec
videos.
he's good at video editing, and Anthony's good at audio editing, and we just, so we can do, there's a lot of things we can do. We can take this show to the next level, and you guys are bending along for the ride. I'm going to start being active in the Patreon. So if you want to join, it's patreon.com/PRT podcast. Join the Patreon. If you join $20 tier Patreon, you'll get a swag bag. Everybody's been posting pictures of them. Now here's the thing, folks. If I send you something and it doesn't look like it's as much as somebody else has gotten, it's because there's different things going on there. The Patreon, you get a huge swag bag. If you're a weekly winner, you get a book by one of the many authors, or I might throw in some extra stuff in there, but it's typically an autographed book. And yeah, so what you do is you join the Patreon, and I'm going to start having private chats in the Patreon where we can sit and talk about all kinds of stuff, and it's only for Patreon members. I'm not going to waste my time saying it twice. So if you want to be a Patreon member, go join up. $10 a month. If you do it for 3 months, then you get a swag bag. If you're $20 a month, then you get a swag bag immediately. Okay, so it's a better deal to join up as $20 a month. And then, of course, I'm going to be setting up chats. We're going to start talking, and we're going to do things in the Patreon. You're going to be privy to things that other people aren't. It's just that simple. Because I want my hardcore fans are the ones that are going to join the Patreon. And the hardcore fans are the ones that I care about all my fans. But you're going to be the ones that I'm going to focus on trying to, have private conversations with and stuff, because you're dedicated. You're really interested in this. You're not one of the casual listeners who's just kind of there. And then you like, I see some of the people on the chat now that I used to see a lot of different people. I don't see them anymore. They just kind of, whatever, Anyway, I'm gonna let you guys go. Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier. Shell L says Euphrates River drying up, angels to be let loose. We were talking about that earlier.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. A lot of parallels that we spoke about earlier just came up again.
Mm-hmm. Somebody says, if I join Patreon, can I get a black hoodie?
You get a lot more than black hoodie. You can also.
I mean, you know what? It depends what your size is too. But we're gonna have large through 5X, and the reason being is because even if you're a medium, you can wear one of the larges.
It still looks good.
Yeah, it still looks good because they're baggy. That's what you do.
Unfortunately, no smalls, but. Yeah.
Thank you for that, D. Marie. She says, don't worry, Josh. You did great tonight. When God closed the door on one house, he opens the window on another. And it's nothing personal against everybody that's, but I need to start giving the people that do the Patreon, I need to give them more. And I want to start doing more for them and for you people who give your hard-earned money to help support the show. I'm always going to be willing to talk and help any of my fans, but I want to really help the Patreon and people who are doing that and going out of the way. So I want to give you what's valuable, which is my time. One Spooky Chick says XL. I'll tell you what, if I don't sell them out at this conference, what I'm going to, just hit me up and I'll see about getting you one. So anyways, folks, it's good talking to you. Thank you for supporting the show. Watch out for that mud flood. Mud flood can strike when you least expect it.
More dangerous than COVID. COVID has
Yeah, COVID comes in. What is this thing doing? I got it. It was doing something stupid. I was like, what the heck is this thing doing? Well, that's lovely. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get it, but it's this thing right here. Hmm. Hmm. Show me your hoodie, Tony. I got that hoodie in Seattle for you a few years ago. There it is. Release the Kraken. That's pretty cool.
We were saying that's a pretty good logo for a chiropractor.
Yeah. And my friend Heather's a chiropractor. So if anybody was wondering about this, this was given to me to wear on the show. These are things that are made and designed and different by my friend at Jewel City and Lakeline Mall. His name is Max. Go check him out. He can make anything. He's made a bunch of my jewelry. He's one of my jewelers. The other one is QT and Round Rock, and they've made several pieces for me and my family. And they're good people, both jewelers. So everyone here at PRT, and thank you for everything, and thank you to my sponsors who've helped me. Good night.